I just wanted you to know that when you want to speak, Susan was on with us earlier and we're 2 minutes out, so I'll tell you, when you want to speak, if you kind of make a noise and then turn your microphone on, we won't be talking over each other. Because like Judy and Amy and Stacy and I can make a hand signal. So, you know, Judy's raised her hand a couple times. I knew she was going to speak next. Stacy's saying good morning. So that's all. So when you want to speak, I want to make sure you, I will remember to call on each of you, but I want to make sure you speak. Well, we're only waiting, Ashley, it appears.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I even put a suit and tie on for everybody today.
Where is it? Oh, there you are. Okay,
You know, like
but now
I'm
we
at
don't.
work.
Now we don't see Amy. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you change your layout, you would, but that's okay.
Full screen. No, I'm on full screen. Speaker view. Yeah.
Yeah, speaker
Okay.
view will bounce to whoever's speaking, and then
So
there's
you'll come. Yeah, there you go.
the grid view,
Okay.
whichever you prefer. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. I
Yeah, it is.
will need a minute to check the attendee window to see if Ashley is out
Gotcha.
there. And then I will be able, if she logged in via computer, I'll be able to bring her over to our side. I have not gotten a text or an email, but so whenever you're ready to begin, we're ready to begin. I just
Okay.
again need that.
Well, I just opened that transcript.
While you're explaining how everything works, I'll go check in.
I want to close the transcript, please. There we go. Well, while I'm
Say the
explaining
pledge.
everything worked, my panelist disappeared, Miss Amy.
Go
Okay,
back
hold on. There they
to
go.
your
Okay.
controls.
I'm ready and we're ready to go. All right. I guess I need to call a meeting to order and then explain how it's going to work. Huh? So,
Yep, but let me broadcast first. We're
Okay.
still
Are we
not
gonna-
live.
Are we gonna say the pledge?
We
Okay.
are.
follow your agenda.
All right. So are we ready to go
I
live?
am ready when you are ready.
Okay. Here we go.
All righty. Good morning, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice
justice for all. Thank you very much. Before we begin with roll call, well, let's do roll call and then I'll explain it. Go ahead, please, Miss Amy. Can't hear you. What did I hit?
Julie Bear,
Here.
Susan McAlpine,
Here.
Vance Miller,
Here.
Ashley Pascal, Judy Selberg.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. It might be helpful just to review real quickly with you because this is our first time and we are practicing and participating today. May will be our second time, so we hope that we'll be all tuned in by then as to how to interrupt each other, which we'll probably do a lot of today. I do ask that if it's possible, someone be assigned the task of trying to contact Ashley to see if she's going to call in. That would be helpful as I watch for her to attend so that I'll know where she is. We have 11 attendees. Now,
Amy,
Yes.
Amy, if you want to email me her phone number or cell number, I'll do that on my other phone.
That's
But I don't have her
okay.
numbers here.
I have her numbers right in front of me.
Okay,
Okay, sounds good.
thanks.
Yep.
And we have 11 attendees and 27 panelists. And once again, Amy, I'm going to only watch the panelist side. Is that correct?
Until we have the call to the public, the
Right.
attendees.
Yeah. Gotcha there. Thanks so much.
Amy, I had a brief
There's
view.
Ashley.
I had a brief
Yes.
view of all the participants, panelists, but then I lost it. There's no way for us to get it if we're sharing the screen with the agenda. Is that correct?
If you go to your control panel
Yeah.
and click on participants, the window will pop back up.
On the right-hand side there.
Down here for me, participants.
Okay. You see it? We see Ashley. Thank you, Susan, for offering to phone her. She,
Panelists is what I want.
okay,
Now I get, what I get is a list.
that's what they are. Panelist is a list of
Yeah,
who's
that's what I get.
here.
Okay. All right, I'm good. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not gonna get
Approval
that.
of meeting minutes. They're in Appendix 1. Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve the draft minutes from March 13th, 2020 regular meeting as they appear in Appendix 1.
Looking for a second?
Second,
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call.
Bear,
Aye.
McAlpine,
Aye.
Miller,
I wasn't in attendance.
thank you. Pascal,
Aye.
Selberg,
Thank
aye.
you very much. This is one change we'll make, and as we go through this, as we notice that something might be different, because of the or lack of opportunity to be face-to-face with people and know who's voting, we are going to do roll call votes on each motion. Okay, we're now on item 5, audience of any citizen. Dr. Selberg, would you read it, please?
This is an opportunity for any citizen to address the board on any matter of concern to the citizen. The board will listen to the remarks but may not respond or answer questions. Unless the matter is already on the agenda for action, no action can be taken other than to instruct staff to include the matter on a future agenda. The president of the board may limit the time for individual presentation and may limit the total time for all presentations. Citizens wishing to comment will be limited to one opportunity to speak. If a citizens group wishes to speak on the same subject, the group should choose a representative to deliver the message. The chairperson may set a limit for organized group presentations and may set limits for each side when many persons request to speak on an agenda item. During remote video conferencing meetings, the chair will query attendees present by computer or telephone for those who wish to speak. The chair will also read into the record any public comments submitted via email or voicemail message by the deadline stated in the public notice.
Thank you. I'll start, excuse me, I just got my water up. I'll start with the attendees first. There's one phone call-in listener, and that would be 866-642-2832. Do you have something you'd like to say? Anything you wanted to say? I've got your voice open if you wanted to. Okay, and the next one would be Aga Tapapita.
Hold on for a second, Julie.
Yes,
Since this is a public meeting, you might just want to give the last 4 numbers of somebody's phone
perfect,
rather than
yeah.
the entire phone number.
Good
Sorry,
point.
thank you.
no, it's a
Good
good
point.
point, Susan. It was an 866 number, which I think is free, but that's okay.
Yeah,
The next
I think
one,
so. Okay, thanks.
thank you. The next one, attendee AGAT. Anybody want to speak there? Anderson? Dan? Heather? Jason? Kay? Laurel? Lisa? Lynn? Michelle? Mike, hi, good to see you up there. Hello to your family. No, NO, do you wish to speak, sir or ma'am? Rosemary? All right, I've questioned all 14 and none wish to speak. We also had an opportunity for people to call in or submit public comments up until 7 o'clock today. I have not received any at my email address. Did any voicemails come in, Amy, or any?
No, we did
Yes.
not receive any voicemails to the number that was posted.
Okay. So as I said earlier, this is our first time doing it this way. We did attend a webinar yesterday, both Amy and I, so we could hear from ASBA's attorney exactly how to go through the participant list and the attendee list. And I feel we have accomplished what we were asked and told to do and complied with the open meeting law. So at this time, I'm going to close the participation part for our audience of any citizen. once more, if any of you want to speak, I've gone through your names, so we're going to go ahead now and return to our meeting and close down the portion of audience of any citizen. Those of you who are new to our gathering probably aren't aware, but we do not have comments throughout the meeting on any agenda items. The one opportunity for visitors to speak is during audience of any citizen. All right, Faculty Council report, Dr. Goldberg.
Hello, and thank you, governing board members and administration, for your leadership during this time. We also appreciate tech support and the faculty for helping with the transition to online courses. Just a sound check, you can hear me?
Yes, perfect. And we can see you too, Andrea, and that's good.
Yes. And everyone has a student's first philosophy and a positive attitude about the needed changes. A little frustration occasionally, but nothing that we haven't been able to overcome. The Schoology analytics is working now, and we really appreciate what Kelt team did for facilitating this repair. What it does is it allows faculty to see exactly what the students have been doing in a course and when their last participation is. And it's very critical when we're looking to prevent a withdrawal of a student, or that we need to contact a student. We can see exactly when they took a test, when they did a discussion. And that hasn't been operational this semester until a couple of weeks ago. And so I really wanted to mention that something good, something positive is working with Schoology, because they're getting really slammed right now with all the extra attendance that they're doing. So we really appreciated that. The following representatives were elected for a 2-year term, and I'll mention those at first, but John Kitts was the Kingman campus leader. He has now Candace Hofstetter is the Kingman campus representative, and Russell Cox was our math representative, and now Matt Wanke, rather new faculty for math, is now the math representative. The rest of us held our seats. I'm still representing business and CIS, Joanne France for Bullhead campus, Ann King for social sciences and art, and allied health is Danny Kesa, and North Mohave campus is Ariel Hammond. The term for officers are elected as counselors is May 1st through April 30th every year. And we will have election of officers at our April 24th meeting. And so that is all I have. Is there anything that you want to tell me?
We want to tell you thank you, and thank all of you for continuing to carry on and doing an exemplary job of meeting these challenges. I know it's a new time for all of us, and I think it's been certainly well managed by everyone involved. So thank you again for your positive attitude and your help, Andrea. Any other board members wish to speak?
No, just to say thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and I also want to thank everybody for their efforts in getting together, working together in such a, I don't know, scary time that requires so much creativity to pull everything together. So thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Susan. Staff Council report, Megan Knox, our Staff Council President.
Good morning.
Good morning, Megan.
You can hear me okay?
Yep, and we can see you.
Great.
Hear you.
Thank you. So good morning, Madam President, Board, Dr. Klippenstein. It's lovely to be able to actually work from home. It's been nice. Besides dealing with the homeschooling.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So it's been really nice to see how adaptive staff have been with working from home. Getting everybody to work from home it seems like it's been a relatively, to me, it looks like it's been a pretty easy process. Everyone was able to transition pretty well. There's been a lot of adaptiveness and flexibility with people. As Andrea mentioned, there has been some troubles with different technologies and things, but everyone's getting through, and it seems to be getting easier as the days go by. As far as for Staff Council, our next meeting isn't until May 7th. And our last one was actually previous to the last board governors meeting, So there's no real updates except for, I think the only thing I didn't mention at the last Board of Governors meeting, at our May meeting is when we will be doing the re-elections for president, vice presidents, and secretary for staff council. Is there any questions or anything that needs to be taken back to the council?
Well, I'll repeat again, and I know we all mean the same thing. We really appreciate the efforts you're making, and hopefully by May 7th, you may in fact have a meeting. That would
Thank
be
you.
nice. Hang in there. Thanks for all your hard work, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, AACCT and ACCT update. Susan.
I just wanted to let everybody know that all of the meetings have been canceled, and I've had no communication from the group at all. So I have no idea what's happening with either organization.
And the head, Jane, is no longer coordinating things then at all. Is that correct?
Who knows? We've had no communication
Because
at
you-
all,
okay,
other than to
gotcha.
cancel the meeting.
Just wanted to make sure I understood. All right. Other reports from trustees. Vance, anything from you?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Ash, you're welcome. Ashley?
No, nothing from me.
Nothing?
Thank you, Madam
All right.
President.
And Judy?
Nope, nothing at this time.
Okay, and I have nothing either. Dr. Klippenstein, President's report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, hello and welcome to this new normal, the new format. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you all for being on in some way, format, shape, form, whatever you want to call it. So thank you all very much for being on. First, I just wanted to send a thank you very much to both the Faculty Council and to the Staff Council, to Andrew and Megan for their continued work. Good meetings the other day, and I appreciate their adaptation during this time. Also want to send a special thanks to the flexibility of the board for working with us on this new format. We greatly appreciate it. I can't thank IT and Amy enough for what they have done. So Amy and IT, if I can give you a standing ovation, I would. Well, I guess I could, but it would look funny on camera. So I will refrain from doing that right now. So thank you. We do have quite a bit of items on the President's report. And so I will go ahead and move forward with the first one, which is James Jarman did put together a short Mohave minute and video recap. So I will forward this back to Amy for control.
Oh, there we are.
Oh, there's James.
Yeah. So, yeah, as you can imagine, with everything happening, including the extended spring break for the students, this newscast going to be quicker than most, and of course, mostly covering the coronavirus. So we'll have Diana go ahead and roll the video.
First up, college campuses close and classes and services move online to help prevent the spread of the coronavirus. College President Dr. Stacy Klippenstein updated students and employees in several emails and video messages addressing the challenge.
Our ultimate goal is to make sure that you're safe, that we're able to do everything we can for our students to get them to graduate as soon as possible and to be able to come back, hopefully, as soon as possible.
The college extended spring break 1 week so faculty and staff could prepare for limited face-to-face instruction, but at the same time, the virus spread further in the region, forcing the college to close campuses and move as much as possible online. Students have since adjusted from on-campus classes to online classes, and most college employees are now telecommuting, with advisors and instruction working hard to make sure students have what they need. You can stay up to date with the college actions to prevent the virus from spreading. Just head online to mohave.edu/coronavirus. The College Information Technology Department's helping make the transition as smooth as possible, and that includes making sure students and employees have the equipment and technology they need. The department's also prepared to keep everything running smoothly during an extended campus shutdown.
We feel comfortable being able to run without ever coming to campus for between 2 and 4 months. In terms of the computers and systems on campus, we don't need to be here to do most of that stuff. Our major data center is actually in Las Vegas, not on one of the campuses. So we do a lot of work remotely already.
And the College Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching, known as CELT, has also been busy helping faculty transition their on-campus classes to online. The Allied Health and Nursing program stepped up, donating medical equipment to local hospitals, and nursing students have been volunteering at the hospitals and clinics, helping process incoming patients.
The response has been quite positive, and quite honestly, being of service to others is at the heart of nursing, so our students are able to get a very valuable lesson through this process. So we have been eternally grateful to have this opportunity to help.
You can read more about the nursing students and the health programs helping local hospitals and clinics. Just head over to the Mohave Wire at mohave.edu/mohavewire. In other news, we have an alumni success story to share. Timothy Schiff graduated from the dental program in 2019. He says he enjoyed the program because it tested his skills and prepared him for the workforce. He had real patients during clinicals and says he learned how to apply what he learned in the classroom.
I really had to be disciplined on top of projects, homework, and I really liked that the clinical aspect of it prepared me for, the workforce.
He now works at High Desert Dental and Just for Kids Dentistry in his hometown of Kingman. You can read more about Tim right now at the Mohave Wire and watch his video at mohave.edu/IamMCC. Before the virus forced statewide emergency actions last month, campus student activities councils held appreciation days for students. At this one in Bullhead City, students preparing for midterms could grab some snacks that were set out in several buildings. And students, faculty, and staff at the campuses gathered together to bring awareness for domestic violence. This Walk Around the Campus event helped draw attention to the problem and show support for victims. If you have an MCC story, contact us at mcc@mohave.edu, and you could see it right here on the next newscast.
And you may have noticed the audio video sync. I always tell people with live broadcasts, that's one of the first things that will go. My audio video sync, at least on this side, was a little off, but we'll go ahead and send that out. So in case the audio video is not synced for you, you can tune into the Facebook page or the YouTube channel and catch the entire thing. And of course, one thing you missed there was the MCC Spirit Store. We're putting that on hold right now because the campuses are closed. So we're not taking orders at this time. So don't take your order. If you do your order, if you put in an order, you're probably going to notice that it's going to be ready in about 2 months or whenever we come back. So there we go. Thank you.
Thanks, James. And looking at that store, there are a lot of nice items, and we'll get back into it. And thank you, Diana, for taking care of sharing this video with us also. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Strategic planning update. Dr. K, I'm sorry. I'm looking for you to see if you're speaking.
You bet.
There you go.
I am ready.
I've been muting myself, and I'm trying to figure out who's going next. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks to James for the Mohave Minute. A lot of good information shared there. The strategic plan process, what we're attempting to do is try to stay on task as we originally had planned. And so therefore we are at our April board meeting where we originally designed to have Justin, who we're excited to have with us again today from Campus Works, be able to come in and provide a very strong update on where we currently stand on our vision and mission statements, our value statements, as well as he will provide information on the strategies with some examples of some objectives. The goal of today is to allow you as the board members to review and provide feedback as Justin presents where we're currently at based on all the wonderful feedback we receive both from community members as well as faculty and staff as well as students all throughout this process over the last 6 to 7 months. I do again want to extend my gratitude for the work that the committee has done, as well as Laurel and Sean. Their leadership has been outstanding. The amount of work that Justin has put in behind the scenes to assist us all throughout this process has been outstanding. And it's been more difficult lately because when we do group meetings, it's all via Zoom, and Justin is putting us into separate groups for dialogue, and it's worked out actually very, very well. It's not ideal, obviously, when you're talking about strategic planning. You love to have more of a face-to-face, larger group activities, but I believe that Campus Works has adapted with us very, very well, so I'm excited about that. So today, again, Justin will take over here in just a minute. Again, the idea is to allow you, the board, an opportunity to provide feedback, share your thoughts with the goal that we then have about 4 weeks to come back and present to you in May a more final product, both adaptations to the mission and vision based on your feedback and future feedback from our gallery sessions next week, to anything with the strategies, to anything with value statements, or with anything with our objectives later on. So I will attempt to weekly make sure that you're updated on any new developments with the strategic plan, because we have a lot of work still to do in the next 4 or 5 weeks prior to May 15th. So I appreciate all of your willingness to review previous sent information, as well as recently I did send you the survey link that allowed many of our faculty and staff to participate and provide feedback. And I know a few of you did as well. So thank you very much for that. So I will turn this over to Justin from Campus Works to provide an update and seek your input. So thank you, board.
Thank you. And good morning, Justin. Good to see you.
Good morning,
Thanks for your
all.
time today. And because we have two on the phone and kind of like to give everybody an overview of what we can anticipate, Justin, it's 9:25 now. About how long did you feel we would be spending with you today?
I thought, Julie, we might spend between 20 and 30 minutes today.
Okay.
I know that you have a very ambitious agenda, and so we certainly want to be respectful of your time. And certainly know that if you feel that something wasn't said or heard today, that we will definitely take it back with us after the meeting, if you'd like to share any feedback with Stacy. So know that we are continually collecting feedback, and we will not stop until the strategic plan hits your desk on May 15th.
All right. Just for board members to be aware as you are listening and being part of this with Justin, anything you would like to share, make a note of, and when we're finished with his input, we'll go ahead and I'll poll each of you to offer any comments you have separately. Okay. All right, Justin, thanks.
Great. Well, thank you all, Madam Chair and board, for giving us some time to speak with you today about the strategic plan and to share some updates. We're delighted to be able to spend some time with you. And before we proceed, I did want to echo Stacy's comments and to say thank you to the Strategic Planning Committee, to the board, and to all of the panelists who are in the room who have really dedicated themselves to ensuring that we complete the strategic plan on time in the midst of everything else that's going on. And so I reached out to Stacy and I said, you know, we certainly want to be sensitive to where you're at. And I heard a resounding yes from everyone saying, we want to keep going. Let's keep going. So I know that that's a haul. And I want to just express my appreciation that in the midst of trying to be nimble and learn new things, that this was still really important. So as we go today, and I actually have to share my screen, I'm looking at it, and I realize that you haven't had a chance to see it. Okay. Oops. And hopefully you can see my PowerPoint presentation here. Perfect. Today we just want to spend some time taking a high-level overview of the strategic plan draft. So as we go through, we'll share the mission, vision, values, strategies. I'm sure many of you have had an opportunity to see some of that through the survey as well as through feedback. And I wanted to share with you some of the feedback we got from the survey. And where is the MCC community right now in terms of how they're feeling about the strategic plan and the direction that we're headed in, as well as gather some additional thoughts and insights before we finalize in May. So before we do some of that, one of the things I did want to share with you all was that at this stage in the strategic planning work that we've done, we have engaged approximately 600 people. And this isn't double counting people. This is unique individuals who have been engaged in some way in the process, whether it was through surveys and gathering feedback from the community, from students, from faculty and staff, whether it was engaging faculty and staff in things like the values workshops, the Future Summit, the Student Experience Workshop. Throughout all of the work that we've done with the strategic planning process, there have been approximately 600 people who've participated. So I want to congratulate MCC and you all, because that's a pretty big undertaking. And I hope that in May, when we finalize the strategic plan and you all become ambassadors of it, that you can very proudly say, look at how many people we've engaged as part of the strategic plan. And so we know we stand on solid footing in really thinking about MCC's future. So I just want to congratulate you all in what has become a very robust process with a lot of interest and a lot of feedback. To begin, I thought I'd start off when we last spoke in January. I had shared with you the student experience survey. So I'm reaching back a little bit. I wanted to bring to you some feedback that we received on the student experience survey, and particularly because it helped us shape and inform and think about the formation of the mission and vision. So as you may remember from our student experience statement, we said that MCC aims to provide an inspiring education. And just a reminder, the bold words are words that people at MCC said that they want the ideal student experience to be. And so MCC aims to provide an inspiring education exemplified by clear pathways as a stepping stone to completion, transfer, or post-collegiate success. That student experience will be characterized by a welcoming community that promotes discovery, confidence, and belonging. So what we did is we surveyed everyone on each of these statements and said, how well do you think this statement represents the ideal experience, student experience at MCC? On this statement, 100% said it represents it well or very well. So that's what you'll see at the end of each of these statements. Relevant programs and courses that ensure preparation for the real world and the future. 94% said it represented the ideal experience. 97% said that a personalized and inviting services that support students in person or online represented the ideal experience. And 94% also said rewarding relationships with knowledgeable and committed faculty and staff. So there was a lot of agreement around the principles of the student experience statement. MCC, faculty, staff, and administration will support this experience with flexible academic programs and class schedules designed to meet students' needs. 91% said it represents it well or very well. 81% said a comprehensive new student orientation that helps students easily navigate college processes and resources and enter a pathway, said that represents the ideal student experience well or very well. And we believe that this number is a little bit lower because the original draft had processes and systems. And that was the word that many people wanted to see changed, that instead of systems, we talk about resources, and that resources sounds a little more student-centric than systems. And also is a much broader category in terms of what we're providing to students. 78% said seamless services that provide timely assistance for students' academic and non-academic needs represented the ideal student experience. Again, the theme here that we heard, seamless services that provide timely assistance, the original draft said just-in-time assistance. And that's typically sometimes a term of art in student success, but many were worried it sounds like we're being last minute instead of proactive. And so we changed that as part of their feedback to say timely assistance. Oops. And proactive and compassionate academic advising and outreach, 94% said it represented the ideal experience well or very well. Innovative use of technology and teaching practices leveraged to deliver dynamic and engaging learning experiences, 97%. What I will share a little bit is that first, 95% thought the statement overall reflected the ideal experience well or very well. And in fact, I think that there was, Stacy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was enthusiasm around the statement, so much so that student services staff even began to adopt it in some of their processes immediately. Stacy's nodding his head. Okay. And so that I think really reflects the input that really came into the process and how that really gave people a sense of ownership, that they could begin really having strong conversations about the ideal student experience before the strategic planning process was even over. And I think that helped build some momentum and enthusiasm for other parts of the process. We heard just some snippets from staff and faculty. I'm thankful our suggestions were implemented. And this is fantastic from a student perspective. It seems very welcoming. And that's a theme that we've heard in a lot of our mission and vision work, as well as through the strategic planning, that we continue to be a place for everyone, and that we hold our tent high, that we can be open and accessible. And lastly, what we heard from people is academic program and schedule flexibility received a lot of passionate responses. A lot of people felt very strongly that had to be an important component to the ideal student experience, both to help ensure that they're continuing to graduate on time, that their time to completion continues to accelerate, but I think also being able to provide students what they need, particularly the barriers that some MCC students face. And some of those are non-academic barriers. Some of those are constraints on their time because of their families' responsibilities or because of work. And so ensuring that kind of flexibility would help ensure that they continue to be successful. So as we think about the student experience statement, I wanted to just frame that for you all, but happy to receive comments before we talk a little bit about mission and vision, thoughts that you may have, or reflections.
Any comments? Let's go, Vance, any comments? Susan? Ashley? Ashley and Judy can wave their hand if they want to say something.
Yes, I just had a question to make sure I'm understanding the results that you shared from the student experience statement.
Sure.
When you shared the percentages, was that a percentage of the total participants in giving feedback?
That's correct, Ashley. So the way the survey was laid out is each one of those statements was a different survey question. Where the participants had to answer, how well do you think this particular statement represents the ideal student experience? And then we took the total of survey responses for those who said, we think it represents the experience well or very well. So each one of those percentages are people saying 100%, 94% said this particular statement represents the experience well or very well.
Okay, thank you.
Judy?
Yes. So all 600 replied about these experiences for students, or were you able to separate them into students and faculty and other participants?
Sure. Good question, Judy. So the 600 participants actually represents, since we started the strategic planning process in what is, I think, September, October now, when we look at everyone who's participated from September through every strategic planning event or exercise or survey that we've had, that 600 represents all of those participants over the last 8 months. This is why I got a law degree. I don't do counting very well, but over the past several months, that 600 is an aggregation of all the unique individuals who had an
All
opportunity
all categories.
in all
Touch on the
categories.
experience.
That's
So
correct.
we don't, yeah. So it would be interesting to know what students said and what faculty said, if it's the same, and to look at it in terms of, you know, with our demographics, does it represent, who does it represent?
Mm-hmm.
Would be, yeah. But I was impressed with the emphasis that they put on technology and flexibility. I think that was very important, and that it should be, and that the atmosphere should be welcoming. And I think those three descriptors are really important. So overall, I think 600 is a good response, but it would be interesting to me to see if it was disaggregated.
Okay, let's just make sure we all are on the same page here. If I understand
Yes.
correctly, I'll reiterate. There were not 600 people who responded to the survey. There's
That's
600
correct.
unique individuals who have touched upon the product sometime in the last several months.
That's
Is that
correct.
Justin?
Yes. All right.
That's
Who
correct.
responded to the survey then?
So
Yeah.
So this survey was both students and faculty and staff who participated in the student experience workshops, as well as other faculty and staff who may not have participated. So a lot of the feedback that we got in actually forming the student experience statement was started by students who provided their feedback about, you know, some of the challenges and barriers that they face, so that we could kind of take that data and really helping shape and form the statements themselves, and then going back and validating that with them, that they felt like we heard them when they first initially spoke with us during the student experience workshop.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Julie.
Absolutely. Yes, a 600 person response on a survey. Man,
I was impressed. I was very impressed.
Yes.
We'll move you into the bonus zone, and we're not going to let that happen.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
Great. Absolutely. So in terms of proposed mission statements, we, as you'll remember, we spent time in November and January talking a little bit about mission and vision. And what we heard from the board was we would ultimately like to consider a mission statement that has some element of accessibility, or, you know, as you were saying, Judy, welcoming, that it also has a component that talks about communities, both community and student success, and the impact that MCC will have on communities. So after our time in January, we spent some time with the Mission and Vision Subcommittee of the Strategic Planning Committee to begin to take some drafts and put together, thinking about the guiding principles of the board, put together some draft mission statements. From there, what we did is we included some of those draft mission statements in the Mission and Vision Values survey that we recently did. So what you'll see here are those draft mission statements and the results, what we heard from the faculty staff at the college. So option one that we laid out was MCC serves our communities, opening doors to transformative education and empowering students to succeed. Option two was MCC serves our communities, inspiring and empowering students to succeed. And the third option was MCC serves our communities, empowering students to succeed through innovative pathways to quality education. And that was the most popular of the three mission statements that we heard from faculty and staff. I will share with you the original mission statements for option 1 and 2. Based on the Mission and Vision Subcommittee, we initially talked about instead of empowering students to succeed, empowering you to succeed. The Mission and Vision Subcommittee, we're talking about how do you kind of create that welcoming language. Even if we don't say we're accessible, we could create some form of welcoming language. So if we're truly here for everyone, then putting that second person pronoun you would imply that anyone who reads it is welcome at MCC. So that was the thinking behind the subcommittee. the feedback that we received was we as a subcommittee took a risk, and the feedback that we received in terms of using the word you rather than students, many people felt that was a little jarring when they first read it, and so they demonstrated really a preference for students rather than the word you, and many liked number 3 because it lacked the second person pronoun.
I think having a specific noun in there identifies who we're serving, and you is almost like an advertisement for a new car or something. You know, see, picture yourself in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Might be, I see the word jarring. That was a real good one.
Yes. Yes.
I hadn't thought that.
So I'm curious to hear from the board. Is there one that speaks to you? Oh, Ashley.
Good, Ashley.
All right, thank you. I wasn't sure if you were seeing my video. You know, I hadn't noticed that difference in what was presented here in our statements versus what was on the survey. But I am wondering now if that skewed the results, and if option 1 and 2, if the word you was replaced with students in that survey that had gone out, if that would have led people to select a different option.
Absolutely. I think that's a good, an absolutely great insight, Ashley, and one that I've been wondering myself, that as we'll continue getting feedback to finalize the mission, but as we go down that path, that we may have to kind of revalidate the mission statements again to control for that difference between you and students. And some of it we heard in the comments too. Some people said, I would have chose number 1, but I chose 3 because you just, it clung to me a little bit.
So this will be the one that's tweaked again, primarily because it is the most forceful part of the document, isn't it?
Correct.
Super.
But I'm curious to hear from you all. Is there one that speaks to you, or one that?
Susan, give a little cough. How about you?
I'm sorry for the delay. I have to get my phone to pop back up again to unmute myself. I like all of them at this point. I kind of like the innovative pathways to quality education, option 3, and option 2 is nice and simple with not a whole lot of words. And I still get stuck a little bit on this transformative education. Just a word. But I like the option. I mean, we're empowering students to succeed. So I don't have a problem with any of them.
Okay, Vance, anything from you? Okay, board members that are visual here, show Justin with your fingers which one you prefer. If you can. That might be a quick survey there. 2,
yeah, I have a problem with 1 also, just because
tell us
I think
which one you prefer. Let's just hear which one you prefer.
3, because it's most popular.
Okay. Yeah. You have a problem with 1. Go ahead and respond to that now. He wanted to get where we are first.
Just because it just, like Susan said, it just seems muddled and transformative and empowering, and then what's the definition of success and all that kind of. I could see why it would be not as popular, but 3, empowerment and how you're going to succeed is embedded in number 3.
Thank you. Ashley and Julie were 2s. Justin, in case you're taking summary there.
I am.
You have Susan's and Judy's input there. All right, thanks.
Perfect. Thank you all. And what we will do from here is we're going to take that feedback back to the subcommittee. Next week, we're also going to be spending time with community members validating the mission and vision statement. So when we come back in May, what you'll have is a recommended mission statement, a proposed mission statement that will have accumulated the feedback from staff and faculty, from you all, as well as community members next week. So I think what we will have is a really good sense that we're on solid ground come May. And I know that Stacy will definitely give you a sneak preview before the board meeting as well, to give you some time to think and digest.
Yeah, I
So-
think that's always helpful to have that. And having that survey sent to all of us, I hope some of you responded. I know I did. And I'm seeing some shaking heads there. I think that that's very helpful, because then we're prepared for what he's sharing with us here today. All right.
Absolutely. So let me talk a little bit about vision. Again, the Mission and Vision Subcommittee took the feedback from the board. Our time in January, we heard a lot about community partnerships, facilitating connections, really as part of the vision, bettering lives of everyone in Mohave, and helping be a leader in educational, professional, and life success. Those were the three things we heard from the board in January. And so the Mission and Vision Subcommittee drafted 3 vision statements. The first was, everyone is welcomed and inspired to embrace their potential, bridging possibility to prosperity through educational connections and community partnerships. The committee really took to and was appreciative. Ashley, I believe you made this comment in January about being kind of other-centered, making the vision statement really about not what MCC is going to be, but about who MCC serves, what they're going to be. And the committee really took that to heart and really thought through that. Option, and that's kind of where some of this language started in the drafting. Option 2 was improving lives, improving communities, bridging possibility to prosperity. A lot of people really liked the shortness of it. And I think particularly it's something that can be really used to inspire and motivate people. So as we think about the vision statement kind of being the rally cry, a lot of people, I think, felt that this could really get that rally cry going in terms of motivating people and telling the story about what Mojave's future was. And option 3 is improving lives and communities, transforming possibility into prosperity. So we did not hear much objection or substantial objection to any of the statements in the survey. The only thing that we heard was, both in the survey as well as in the strategic planning committee, many preferred words like succeed or thrive over prosperity, particularly because prosperity might sound a little more economic. We're here just to get you a good job, rather than we're here to help better your life. And some of that feedback from the board about bettering lives, that's a much broader statement than just prosperity in and of itself. And so this is where the community landed in terms of thinking about that. So I think we, as through the Mission and Vision Subcommittee, will probably take this back and chew on it a little bit around the word prosperity. But I see Judy prefers to, really likes to. And so I'm curious to hear from Ashley and Julie, as well as Vance and Susan afterward, if you have one that you like or prefer.
This is Susan jumping in.
Oops.
I actually, when I read this, loved the term prosperity. We, at least in the Kingman area, have such a huge number of first generation into higher education that are really focusing on their basic needs, their basic human needs, life needs. And to me, that prosperity word is exactly what they're looking to do, to become more prosperous. I don't think they necessarily equate success with prosperity at this point yet. I just really liked it. And I like the shortness of either 2 or 3 But I really like number one because it pulls everything together, that you're making educational connections and community partnerships, which is really what growing in business and prosperity and success is about.
Great.
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Ashley, Judy? I don't see any hands. I think, Justin, I completed the survey, and to be quite frank with you, whatever I put on there at the time was what I still think, and I can't remember. I should have. I don't know how to keep a copy of the survey. I'm not a real, the short term is here, but at the time, it was very significant to me. Right now, looking at the screen, I can't remember.
No worries. And I will say that the feedback was anonymous with the survey. So,
Okay. I guess that's one thing I'd like to be able to, I should have been able to do for myself, and that was make note of what I was doing. Because I know I spent quite a bit of time doing the survey, making sure I believed what I was saying. I wasn't just scanning through it. So, okay.
Sure. And that's just to say, the only way I'd be able to, I wouldn't be able to get to it either.
That's okay.
Unfortunately, but certainly.
I like the simple verbiage of any of them. I always like simplicity over redundancy, and the prosperity. I don't know that I stuck with prosperity. I don't remember that. I think number one's too lengthy.
So the short, simple statements,
Yeah,
the calling card. And from a CampusWorks perspective, you'll never hear me say longer, go longer. So, and I
think
believe
having your committee look back and reconsider the replacement of prosperity with succeed or thrive certainly would be helpful. Susan pointed out a very good perspective there too. So it's something maybe that they hadn't considered and they could.
Absolutely. And I think Ashley.
Good. 2 hands, Ashley.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, I was just wanted to again make sure I'm understanding where we're getting the information from before I comment. This survey was only sent to the board and to MCC employees. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And employees, you said. Okay.
That's correct.
So I'm just wondering about maybe where the word prosperity came from, and if it was a suggestion we made, please forgive me. But just where the word prosperity was inserted in, and if we just need to keep that in perspective, that the feedback was only provided sort of internally on these statements.
Sure. Yeah, and good question, Ashley. The word prosperity actually did come from some of our conversations at the board initially. So I appreciate the nod to that. And what we did is we certainly, as we were framing the mission and vision subcommittee. I mean, we probably had 17 different drafts of vision statements. And so as we were working through those drafts, we again kept kind of going back to what did the board say? Are there things that we could rely on? So that we were really honoring some of your feedback, and then we could bring that to the community to get even more feedback and just to enhance the conversation. So absolutely, I would say that at this time, because we still have some opportunities to get more feedback, both from the community, from employees, that may help kind of provide some more framework and a little bit more information about kind of where the vision can go. And some of it may be, as we think about this with the subcommittee, we may take the word prosperity out, or it may be, maybe there's 2 words we can put there, prosperity and something that represents kind of both concepts. And so I think those are the things that we could really think about as we walk away today.
Great.
And Judy?
Well, okay, so what happens to student input and student opinion in all this? That's what I was trying to get at when I raised the question about the survey.
Yeah, good question. I think and part of that was our reliance on information that came through both the SWOT survey from students. We did a pretty intensive SWOT survey, as well as the student experience survey and the workshops, where we collected a lot of upfront student information. What I will say, and maybe this is something we could talk about a little bit later, that doesn't stop us from going away today and validating some of the mission and vision work with students. I certainly want to look to Stacy just to validate that. But absolutely, we could, if you feel that it's important, have that conversation about how do we validate this with students as well.
Well, what I'm thinking about is that we have, like and unlike other community colleges, we have an interesting demographic. And I think I would really like to see student input, because students represent a very broad range of our population. So it would be interesting to find out what a student thinks about the word prosperity, or bridging possibilities, or improving communities. And I would just like to hear it, because I'm an advocate of listening to what students say, and at least when you question them, they can say that they had specific input. But like I said, it's an interesting demographic, and I think it would be worthwhile to take at least to have some kind of representation when you're developing vision and mission statements, and they're part of they add to the attraction. We need to recruit, because the most important part of the population in Mohave County is the ones that aren't here. So
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I don't need to preach to the choir. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about.
If I may, Madam Chair, just
Yeah,
to back up and support Justin on that. The previous work that we've done has been good with collecting the student feedback. We're at a point now with hearing from you, collecting, wrapping some things up, starting with the gallery sessions next week. One of the ideas that Sean and I talked about, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, was how inclusive can we make those? And we still have another 3 weeks even after that to continue to collect feedback. And I think there's some modalities and ways we can get something out. Luckily, we still have some active student leaders that have been participating. But I agree with you. I think the more that we can hear from them throughout the process would be better. So we'll continue to look at that.
Okay. Before we go on, I'd like to remind all of us we're into our meeting for an hour, and we're only partway through this presentation. We've spent 40 minutes on it. So we're going to need to keep going.
Great. Well, and I can most certainly speed things up. There are a few insights that I want to share with you with the rest of the presentation.
Sure.
The most important parts were the mission and vision. So I'm glad that we got to spend time.
Not wanting to cut you off.
We
just have such a different modality today that we're going to have to keep moving.
No, absolutely. And thank you for the reminder as well. So
including everybody.
Yes, and certainly no. You have the slides here. Feel free to ask any follow-up questions. To share with you a little bit, you all heard and probably read some of the strategies in either the board packet or the survey that came through. 4 strategies came to the top: enrollment for all, workforce and development partnerships, and flexible academic programs was another strategy, student success, and really infrastructure building, foundations of organization success. And before the coronavirus hit, we were already talking about an MCC that could be very nimble and high performing. And I think that the virus certainly showed just how the college community is already doing that. So as we looked at these, what we did is we put out into the survey these 4 areas, and we asked how representative do you think these strategies are in being able to advance what will be the future of Mohave County Mohave Community College. And what we heard was 95% said yes, taken together, we think that these will advance the potential mission and vision of the college, that these are the right direction. A lot of feedback and comments that we heard from people was that they thought that all four were very interconnected and were important because they kind of go together like a puzzle piece. One of the things that we asked from them was, what do you think is going to happen if we put all four of these strategies together and we begin to implement them? What we heard from participants was retention and completion rates will improve. We'll provide a broader range of opportunities for the communities that surround our campuses. Hope and opportunities for students. A healthier shared mindset across the college, and students who feel their needs are being supported. And the last one, I think MCC will be positioned to serve as a real force for good within the communities in which campuses are located and possibly beyond. So I thought that these were just a good representation that that employees are beginning to get a shared vision themselves for what the years are going to look like in the next 5 years, and that shared vision is going to create the kind of ownership that you need to really make the strategic plan work. Additional comments, I again just wanted to call this out quickly, that the Strategic Planning Committee did a great job on coming up with these strategies. I appreciate all your hard work in making MCC ready and viable for the future. So I think that says a lot about the collaboration and the appreciation. And we saw a lot of those comments in the survey, that people felt like they were heard, that their input was really valued throughout this process. Proposed value statements. I'll share with you very quickly, just like we did with the student experience statement. You probably saw the value statements in the survey, and I won't read them to you other than just to share with you some changes since the survey. So we had 85% agree or strongly agree that this value, create the future, would support MCC's future culture in 5 years. And initially, this statement began with, innovation begins with the heart. We cultivate relentless. We heard a number of people in our feedback say, this would be a much stronger statement if we took out that first part. So we did take it out in response to the feedback and left the rest of the draft as it was. And just to call out real quick, one thing that we heard about the survey was, someone said, funny, the survey came out now. We're currently in a time when staff and faculty are coming together in hardship. We've adapted to sudden online experiences and work from home. It's going to be ongoing trial and error, but in the end, we'll be successful. So there are people who are feeling like we're beginning to live the values already, which I thought was really interesting. Engage fearlessly, 92% thought that this was the value that they wanted to represent the future culture of MCC. And what we heard is, I love the fact that praise is dished out from the top down and from the bottom up. Each department has ways to alleviate stress. We feel comfortable enough to be able to joke around. So employees are beginning to visualize themselves and internalize some of these values already, just in terms of the proposed value statements. Build together, 90% agreed or strongly agreed that this represents MCC's future culture, the one that they want. And what they said is, this survey is an example of the college seeking input from all voices. I appreciate that what I have to say is heard and taken into consideration. Each department draws strength from each other to build a strong student experience. And another one said, I like the common vision part. As a support employee, I appreciate how I can share in that common vision with management. And finally, live authentically. We had 88% who agreed or strongly agreed. One of the questions that we kept getting in the survey that I wanted to represent was, how is this going to be implemented? That is, I always say, that is the best form of constructive criticism that we can get, because people want to see these begin to play out and live in the organization. We also heard, I hope that a MCC in 5 years does live authentically. And just very succinctly, healthy and diplomatic. I like this. So I will say that there wasn't a lot of strong objections to anything in the survey, that there was a lot of common agreement, as you can see, there were some words that people wanted differently, and that's some of the variation in the percentages that we tried to respond to. And lastly, we asked, is there a value missing? And some people said, would like to see students represented. We initially used the wording stakeholders. We were trying to be a little bit more broad and inclusive. And so we were glad to hear, let's put students somewhere in there. That was a really great suggestion. We also heard diversity is there, but we want to know, is it explicit enough? There were a few comments about that as well. So we'll probably take a look at that to see how do we make that more explicit in the statements themselves. And then lastly, what we heard is, we're fortunate to have strong leadership who are willing to listen to staff, faculty, and students with open ears. Because of this, I'm hard pressed to find anything missing from the list. The committee did a great job. And then we also heard, thank you for allowing our input. All of this is amazing. I ponder on how this will come to fruition. And no, these are really great. So these are just some representative. I kept saying to Stacy, I promise Stacy I'm not being rosy. And that I tried to pull out the constructive criticism, but and certainly the percentages kind of tell that story too. But I think that people felt like both the values and the strategies are on the right track. So as we finalize these, we're going to start to begin to think about how all of these things align. So it's the mission, the vision, the values, and the strategies begin to sync up. And from that, what you all will have seen in your board packet as well is objective statements. That is the next thing the Strategic Planning Committee is working on, we wanted to kind of give you a sneak preview of what are some of those kind of measurable outputs that are going to be really key to the strategic plan, just so that you had a flavor of what you will expect to see when we come back in May to finalize the strategic plan.
Great, very positive, universally positive. It seemed you didn't filter out the negativity then. If there were negative comments, you would have shared them.
That is correct.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that. I wanted to make sure. It certainly reflects on the hard work you've been doing, Justin, and coordinating everything for everybody. And the rumors we heard about your organization before we chose you were true. So thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you all. And I just want to say, I want to thank everyone for their love of the institution, because that is what has engineered and fueled this process.
Good. That's a good feeling, isn't it? Okay, have a good weekend if that's possible. And any other comments from the board? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll go on then with Stacy. Back to you, sir.
Yes, great. Thank you all very much for providing feedback during that. As I said before, we're trying to stay on task and allowing you an opportunity, especially with the mission and vision statement, which you've already began to work on. And feedback, anytime you have any thoughts about what we presented today, just shoot me an email or give me a holler. I do send all feedback to Sean, Laurel, and Justin as well. So they know that information may be coming from you for adaptation to our value statements and or strategies. So thanks again for that. Next, we're moving into the public health crisis review and response, the COVID-19. We do have some information that we'll present to you today, so to make sure you're fully aware of Mohave Community College's response. First, I want to say thanks to everyone for their continued flexibility and patience and adaptability. I have been very, very pleased in how the faculty and staff and our students have all adapted and have been flexible and extremely patient during this time. The faculty behind the scenes have done outstanding work to adjust and adapt to get to a point of being able to still teach most of our classes. Our staff behind the scenes as well has working from home are still meeting with students and still assisting with summer registration, fall registration, current issues now. IT staff, everybody behind the scenes. And then how do you work with our faculty and staff during this time as well? And so HR and individual managers, leaders have all stepped up and have done an outstanding job. So thanks to everybody. Lots of hard work again behind the scenes to deal with this crisis. It all started with a wonderful crew of our risk and our safety committees coming together to propose next steps. They'll provide a little bit of an update here in just a minute. Our number one goal has always been to provide a healthy and safe environment for everybody while still trying to meet the needs of our students to the best of our abilities. That's been the primary goal all throughout this. And a lot of decisions had to be made, sometimes quickly, I might add. And it has been done so, though, through what I would consider good dialogue and a chance for consensus building to make sure we are moving forward in the right direction. And when we went to a non-face-to-face format, as we are in today, that was done by a vote of 13-0 when it comes down from our leadership team actually discussing all the possible pros and cons and us moving forward in this direction. So I greatly appreciate the campus leadership. I will now turn this over to, I think first up is our crisis management and response. That's Danette and Fred. And then we'll move down the line with the PowerPoint presentation. In your agenda, you have a good summary if you wish to follow along with that as well. So I will pass it off. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Dr. Bear, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. Can you go to the next slide, Amy? We're going to go fast so we can make up some time here. You will see the response team named on the slide. I'm just going to do a quick review of what has happened in this semester. So in Arizona, the first confirmed case was way back in January, which seems like a lifetime ago. Many of the extroverts are, pondering how this all happened. In March, the response team was formed. Within a day, we drafted a response plan. On March 11th, we declared that we were in the stage 11 of our communication plan. And that week, Arizona rose from 42 cases to 440 cases in 1 week. By the board meeting day on March 13th, we announced to you that we were moving students to an online format for the regular classes, but we would continue to meet with labs and such. By the time spring break was over, we moved to a stage 4 shelter-in-place order with no face-to-face contacts. Everyone would begin telecommuting, almost everyone, I should say. Students would begin completing coursework online. As Dr. Klippenstein said, we moved pretty seamlessly, painfully, but seamlessly to an online remote teaching format. But I want to note that we also smoothly transitioned to online services. Our students are still being served just remotely. Fred's going to talk about Mohave County statistics, but I wanted to mention it feels good right now. Things are getting better when you look at the projections. Staying at home is working. However, Mohave County is not expecting its surge for another 2 or 3 weeks. So that's from the CEOs of the hospitals. We're just beginning in Mohave County, so we need to be very cautious. The graph that's being displayed right now is a model of what is happening in Arizona. This is a very different picture of what was going on last week. So last week, when you looked at this same projection, it was projected that we would need 4,000 hospital beds and 602 ICU beds. Arizona only has 508 ICU beds. So this week, the projections look much better. Hospital beds that may be required are way down. The number of people who are getting sick went down by about 2,000 in the projections. So staying at home works. So I'm very thankful for that. Looking at the future, this committee is going to need to look at how we're going to bring people back to campus and when, and how to do it safely. It is noted that one model suggests, and the model that Dr. Fauci is using, that the very first day that no coronavirus deaths will happen is in mid-June. And if you look at the graph up there, we're looking at the model in Arizona going down in June also. So this may take a while to get through, and I very much doubt that we'll be doing this face-to-face next month, but things are looking good. With that, I'll pass it on to Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danette.
Sorry, Fred, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Danette. One of the things I do want to point out is that we gave you the links to this because we wanted you to see how to look what we were looking at and be able to look at it yourselves. But just at looking at the statistics from yesterday, which is the 8th, and they only put these out at 10 o'clock on the date. So today's numbers I'm going to give you have changed because it's after 10 o'clock and I got collected these before 10 o'clock. But nonetheless, there's 3 in Bullhead now, not 2, 11 in Kingman now, not 7. And the contrary to popular belief, you'll see that 12 people have from 20 to 44 have actually gotten the virus, and 5 from 45 to 54, and 6 is now the number for 55 to 64, and 5 for 65 and over. And if you need to know gender, 17 female is now the numbers, and 10 males. And if you look over to the left where you see Bullhead cases 2, that's 3. Colorado City is still holding on to 0. And Kingman now has 11, not 7. And Lake Havasu has 14 cases, so they're holding steady. But we do want everybody to, like Jeanette said, that we got a long ways to go, but keep paying attention. We believe we're doing the right thing and keeping us all safe and healthy. I'll end with that in the interest of time.
Well, thank you. Helpful information. We appreciate you getting it together for us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, President Klippenstein, board members. My turn to talk about instruction. Amy, if you would advance the slide. And I am shameful that the bottom phrase there does not include everyone in all the slides coming up. It, as Dr. Klippenstein has said, it has been just inspiring and incredible that everyone has stepped up to make sure that students do not suffer during this horrific virus infestation. Transitional, the PCS and all transfer courses, as you can see by the numbers that were moved to online, you know, anywhere from 16 up north to 75 on our Lake Havasu campus, and the pre-college studies classes also got moved on online. Next, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. The health professions, as you can see, back up one more. Back up one, please. Health professions also had to move many things online to complete their didactic courses, and many of them, as you can see, clinicals have been delayed, but not all of them. It was up to the students and the clinical sites to determine whether safety precautions could be put in place and students could complete their studies. Down at the bottom, the nursing, as you can see, all the didactic courses went online, 20 labs went online, and 300, which impacted 315 students. So the line shows that the classes that went online and how many students were impacted by that. All clinicals that need to be completed will be posted at the end of the semester as incompletes, and as soon as students can log those hours, the grades will be in place. Next, Amy. And finally, our CTE programs, the late start classes all got canceled. The last 8 weeks of the semester all got canceled, which impacted 109 students. Culinary moved everything online by using the Blue Apron order a kit for your dinner at home with video and photographs forwarded to Elena, our professor in that program, and that impacted 74 duplicated students. And all of the labs for those hands-on things in the trades, unfortunately, had to be suspended because of the close contact restrictions. That impacted 160 students, and they're all in the gate waiting to come back when those restrictions are lifted. And that's all I have.
Questions, comments? Yes, Ashley, thank you.
Yes, I just wondered if any of those changes resulted in any additional fees or costs to the students, especially I was looking at the culinary moving to online.
No, none whatsoever. When that decision was made to get those Blue Apron boxes, the fees that originally went along with the original registration, were applied so the students did not have to purchase them. They all came through our business office.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And when you say they're waiting,
Hi, this is,
I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry too,
No, no.
Julie. Just the opposite of that is my question is, are any of these changes going to result in lost income to the college by way of refunds, reduced tuition, things like that?
Yes, we
Madam
did
Chair,
review
this is
those
Steve.
things, and President Klippenstein, I think, has more information on those dollar amounts than I do.
Yeah, that will be coming up a little bit later in the slides, as Sunny has been tracking that information.
Thank you. And when you say, Stephen, waiting at the gate, does that mean when we're ready, or they can go through the summer, or we're just going to shift everybody?
Yes, everyone will be shifted to whenever that restriction is lifted. We have, with the President's blessings, suspended our policy on time limits for incompletes. Right now it's 7 weeks, or your grade turns to an F, or whatever grade you earned up until you left class. So if it takes longer than 7 weeks, so be it. We will suspend that policy to make sure that no student is harmed.
Okay, so you see the transition going back to normal once it's once we're given the green light, you see it being relatively seamless then?
Yes, absolutely. The faculty have been great in making sure they know where to pick up when those doors are open, and students in probably a wide open format will be able to complete their demonstrations and their competencies.
Okay, Judy?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I am amazed at the amount of focus and concentration you've done to get this off the ground. Being involved with student teachers in the county and in every school and in every school district, I know what this takes for a school, let alone a community college. And the questions we asked are really good. But in addition to that, I would just like to say kudos to you guys for just getting on top of this and using every brain power that everybody has to put it together, because
Yeah.
I know how complicated it is.
Yes, and there were a lot of innovative ideas on how we could continue, but in the long run, the health and safety of the students and of the faculty and those on campus, it could not be overlooked. And so
and we can't override everybody's opinion that everybody needs to stay at home. I mean, the beauty parlors were up for a while, and they finally just said, you know what, this isn't going to work. We just can't do this. So you can be as innovative if you want to, trying to override what the health department and what the president and what everybody else is saying. But in the long run, you have to really not put yourselves and other people in that kind of danger and come out looking like you caused a worse effect on the pandemic than would have happened. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, thank you so much. And back to Stacy, I would think.
Yeah, we're on to student services now with Anna.
All right, Anna? I like to call her Annie. Where is she?
I'm here. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. Always a pleasure to be here. And this time specifically regarding student services operations. Amy, next slide, please. Before talking about our adjustments, I wanted to provide just a quick enrollment overview of what all the changes look like from a numbers perspective. Pre-March 30th, we had over 4,100 students. After our changes, we're still at over 4,100 students. Very fortunate to have a minimum impact. Students really stuck with us, and we stuck with students as well, and same thing from a credit perspective as well. So very minimal impact. Typically, what our registration looked like pre-March 30th was that our on-ground population was 51%, and this is representative of students that were taking only on-ground classes. 22% of our population was taking only online classes, And then 27% had a mixture of some sort. Typically what we see is that they still lean towards taking on ground, but they're taking at least one online course. And so you can see how that shifted after March 30th to where we went 100% online. Oh, Amy, slide. So the adjustments that we've made, recruitment specifically followed up very heavily with dual enrollment students. I'm sure most, if not all of you have seen that there are different structures being offered to high school students. Specifically, some of our high school students have been offered to finish with the grade they currently have and to not continue with additional high school work. They cannot do this with dual enrollment courses. And so our recruiters were not only following up to make sure that they were aware of that, but also offering additional support. We've had the fortune of having a great relationship with IT, and we have supplied some of the dual enrollment students with computers and technology that they did not have to complete those dual enrollment courses. Lots of message clarification, like I said, specifically with recruiters and letting them know what was needed from the high school students. And then really continuing with our summer bridge and summer offerings, and also talking a little bit about fall too. We've had to make alternative arrangements to register students in an online format. Typically we have recruiters in the high school registering and communicating with students, but this time they're doing it all on the phone and working with the high schools, so they're doing a great job. Frontline operations, specifically the call center and any staff at the front desk, all of those employees are trained to work on the phones. And so we were able to really double our staff on the phones. Later on, you'll see our outcomes and that our abandonment rate, which essentially means the amount of phone calls that were not picked up, has gone down. And that really is not only addition to the outreach, but the fact that we have additional staff on the phones that are able to help. They're also able to follow up with students on support and then doing some additional projects on the side. We have a few technology projects that they've been working through, and then really making sure that we have a good breadth of support networks to send those students to as they get those calls. Student success, specifically with Advising and Student Success Center, we've revised some processes. We are not offering AccuPlacer currently, which students do come to the campus in order to determine placement. So we've worked with instruction to really lean on multiple measures as well as alternative placement if somebody does not have one of those multiple measures that we've relied on in the past. There were, I'm sure in Jenny's report, she's going to talk about that there were considerable employees that did not have work because their work would mainly be done on ground. And so Student Services had the privilege of getting 20+ employees provided to us to really help follow up with students and talk to them about the support they've been receiving and checking in with them. And so we've been very thankful to have that additional staff. It's been going really well. From an enrollment management standpoint, which includes financial aid, registrar, and veterans, emergency grant became a hot topic for us to make sure that we could support any requests that came out. They've also looked at regulation updates, making sure that we are compliant and being flexible with as much as the government will allow. A good example of this is the work study program. As you know, we do have students that are able to work on campus and receive additional funding. Because of COVID-19, we discontinued having them work. However, with regulation changes, they're still receiving payment through the end of the school year with the hours that they would have worked. So it was great to be able to do that. Veteran outreach, I'll talk briefly about in my next slide with outcomes, but we have a large veteran population that was impacted by us moving our classes from on ground to online. And so there was a large outreach perspective that went out with that. And then James Jarman will follow up later with marketing and public information, but all of you are aware about the tremendous opportunities he's taken to make sure that we're communicating and reaching out to everybody to not only let them know what MCC is doing, but there's a large internal network that he's keeping updated on the latest and greatest to make sure that we're adjusting as needed. I also wanted to mention that Student Services moved some of their tracking into a COVID-19 coding. So as students mention issues associated with COVID-19, Not only is that good for review, but it also allows us to reevaluate our current processes and make sure that we're adapting according to the need at the time. All right, next slide, Amy. Thank you. So just some results. I do have a lot more numbers. Call center call volume has been up about 15%, not surprising. With that said, I think it could be considerably more if we didn't have so much outreach going on. So about 15%, but our abandonment rate, which are those calls that did not get picked up or answered, is down 3%. Last week when I looked in the beginning of this week, we have about 500 more calls. I expect it's more now, but our abandonment rate stays really low. And again, I think it's that good balance between outreach and then people being able to call in too. Dual enrollment student contact, we're about 75% of our population. Some of them have been contacted more than once, depending on needs. And we're working at wrapping up at least the one-time contact with all of those dual enrollment students, as well as staying in touch with the high schools. Student contact with the Student Success Center, they're the ones following up specifically with students that have been on-ground students that were moved into online. In addition, they have the impressive goal of following up with all of our 4,000 plus students in the next week or so. And that contact is up 30% as the beginning of this week. So this year from last year, they're contacting more students to make sure that they're on a good path. I did mention veterans in the prior slide. 68% of our veterans were impacted. There is a part of their funding that comes from them taking an on-ground class. If they take all online classes, there is a part of their funding that can go away. In this case, there were some adjustments made with the VA, and our veterans coordinator is incredibly on top of it. So she assisted all the veterans that were impacted, and she was really reaching out before they had to call her to find out how they needed to adjust. I did mention prior about our verbal communication. So we're estimating about 60% of our student population has received verbal outreach, and that doesn't include all the emails, social media, things of that nature that they may have seen, to let them know what we've done to adjust and that we're here to support them. 100% of our work study students will receive payment through the end of the semester as well because of the prior accommodations that I did mention. And then a good point is that I wanted to bring up some of the feedback that we've received from students. When I asked this question, I got a fair amount of responses, but one of the most common items that were said to us is thank you for checking up on me, where it really seems like students are feeling supported. The feedback that we've heard from staff, I think staff is feeling supported as well. So it's been a great time. I always tell Dr. Klippenstein that the opportunity is in the challenge, and I think we have found a lot of opportunity with this. Just as a side note, I did mention emergency grants. In addition to how we triage students. So when we contact a student and they have issues or concerns, there's a ticket that's placed, and that's how we pull in additional resources. At this time, we haven't seen an increase in those, and there's been a fair amount of conversation on why that is. Some of it is that people are still getting their bearings, maybe some are still employed, maybe some just lost their job where they're not yet exactly sure on the support they need. And some of it is because we've been very prompt with our outreach too. So thankfully, we haven't seen a huge increase in that demand. However, we are prepared for it to pick up.
Thank you, Anna. Thorough, and it looks like you're in your element there, as always. Thanks so much.
Very fortunate to have a great team. Thank you.
Yep. It is a team effort. You're absolutely right. Thanks, Judy, and everyone for clapping. And all right, Mark. Or Stacy, back to Stacy to coordinate for Mark. Sorry.
Oh no, we're moving on to Mark.
Okay. I'm trying to coordinate between the paperwork and the iPad. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. My camera won't start because Amy disabled me, but that's all right. You don't need to see my smiling face to hear my sparkling voice.
We can hear you.
Ah, there we go. Great. Next slide, please, Amy. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, I'm proud to report that the IT department has really stepped up here. We started we started planning for this back in February. When we suspected that COVID might be bigger than anyone thought, we actually incorporated it into our disaster recovery testing and planning over spring break. So we started gathering systems, gathering equipment, and bringing it up to Kingman. And in the initial week after spring break, over a 3-day period, the technicians and system groups found, repaired, upgraded, imaged, tested, and distributed 124 laptops to faculty and staff so that they could work from home. We've given out webcams, headsets, technology accommodations for students and faculty and staff. Responded to a lot of requests for support. We expanded our Zoom licensing to incorporate all full-time faculty, staff, and adjunct faculty. And we've expanded View. And I think probably one of the greatest successes, and the one that I'm certainly most proud of my team for, is we had the Genzabar 1 upgrade planned for early April of this year. And we, as everyone was working from home, we got together as a team and thought about, should we push this off for a couple of months, or should we go ahead and move ahead? And the admin computing team, the team lead there is Sharon Hanks. They were adamant that they could finish it, get the upgrade done, get the training done, and make sure that everyone was able to use Genzabar 1. So that upgrade is completed. We're still ironing out a few details, but they worked very, very hard. I know that Sharon and her team put in some 15-hour days over the weekend, last weekend, in order to get it up and running and working properly. I cannot express how thankful I am to have my admin computing team. They're a wonderful group of people. Next slide, please, Amy. For student support, as of the time that I wrote this, we'd issued 29 laptops to students. According to our numbers, that number will be 53 at the end of the day today. We're still handing them out on all campuses to students who have a need for a laptop. We're using the TRM Surface Pros for those students, and making sure that they have the software and the tools that they need to continue their classes. IT and Disability Service have issued some accommodative technology to students. I got to run my first fully online class this past week. It was challenging, but it was a blast. We're working with the school districts to make sure that we can support our dual enrollment students. Lots of our dual enrollment students are coming to us for laptops. It's not the majority, but it's certainly a good percentage of them are dual enrollment students we're checking out laptops too. So my hope is that not only they can use it for our courses, but they can use it for their high school courses as well. We moved the staff view to some older equipment. If you recall, last year we replaced the data center equipment. Instead of tossing that stuff, we had it reserved and set to the side so that those IT staff that teach classes can actually use that equipment in the classes. We pulled it out of the classroom, brought it online, and moved the entire staff view over to the old equipment so that we could expand what we were offering to students on the new equipment. So the staff are putting up with stuff that's slightly slower and slightly older so that we make sure that we're delivering the right technology to students right now. Next slide, please, Amy. And then lastly, we're really looking to the community as a team. Many of the decommissioned computers that we had in our warehouse missed the recycling drive. Lon Hornick, my tech manager, took the lead on cleaning those, wiping them, rebuilding them, imaging, testing them, and probably by midweek next week, we'll have almost 60 computers that we can donate to local school systems for students. We can hand them off to them, and then they can check them out to their students. So we're looking forward to offering that. Our admin staff has actually been providing technical assistance and tech support to some of our peer colleges as they move their stuff online. Very proud of Josh and the admin staff back there, our server support staff doing a really, really good job. And we're currently taking an inventory of some of our other older equipment that we've decommissioned, but that might be useful for other state agencies or other state schools, so we can donate that as well. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, it looks like a monumental job has been done. Certainly continues to be ongoing, I'm sure, Mark, and we appreciate you and all of those who have helped. I think one interesting point I noticed was these 57 computers that are going to be repurposed, which is awesome. But I know in the past, many of these agencies have not wanted them. So that tells us that they're recognizing the need. Before, we couldn't give them away sometimes. And you obviously have done a good job of selling them for free. So that's wonderful, and wonderful to see that come back up. Thank you.
I think so, yeah. And we're working with a lot of the local school districts, Dr. Bear. You know, we gave I think 40 to Hackberry just this past year, and every time we have them, we call around and ask, hey, you guys need some computers for your classroom? And if they say yes, we're happy to give them away.
Right.
I'd rather have them recycled and used than thrown out. And you know, stuff that won't run our advanced software for our students can certainly be run for elementary school students.
That's wonderful. I say, and I'm glad that they are responding now to this offer. Judy?
Yeah, just thank you, Mark. You just, you know, in crises like these, it's really producing a wonderful community capturing of people just finding what works. Maybe they were hoping you'd open up a drawer and find about 1,000 masks and some shields and give them to them too, but no such luck, huh?
If we had them, we would.
I know you would. I know you would. Maybe the welding department has them. We could donate those.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and thanks to all who work so hard with you. We really appreciate that team effort. Back to Stacy.
Yeah, we now have Sunny up to talk a little bit about some of the financial services and support, as well as some quick updates on some of the budget implications.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. Thank you for this time to summarize what's going on with the crisis response. Amy, if I could get the first slide, please. As you all have heard all day long, things are changing literally by the hour. We just received more economic projections from the state as of 6 a.m. this morning, so these numbers have changed, but I think for now this will give you the information you need. The business office works very closely with your chiefs, and you can be proud of the working relationships that continue to thrive. Our largest immediate expense that we've recognized has been for IT. So Mark's department and mine have worked closely to get students, staff, and faculty the access and the tangible products they need. Fortunately, we are working a method that will ensure that this isn't just a one-time expense that will be lost. This is an expense that will carry through and bring us to a higher functioning level this fall as well. As we go back to more traditional formats, none of this money is poorly spent. It is well used to keep us going in the right direction. Additional lost revenue has already been recognized because we did choose to cancel some late start spring classes. Those were mostly lab classes. And so really with the lack of face-to-face contact, there wasn't much of a choice. And lastly, on this slide, you can see, as Mark mentioned before, we are distributing laptops and tablets as quickly and as responsibly as we can. We've established the loan program for students, and those are going out as efficiently as possible and with the least human contact as possible. Next slide, please. More financial considerations. We can expect some revenue loss in the near future because for this summer, we also made the choice to keep the summer classes online. Depending on what happens with the outlook, we know that there will be some spring classes that need to be finished out this summer that are on ground. And so we didn't want to start going after new classes and new students without first taking care of the ones that we already made an obligation to. As Stephen and Anna have already said, most of our classes have gone very successfully to an online distance education modality, but there are some situations that are not under our choice. For instance, the state of Arizona closed down access to their prisons, and so the GEO facility classes were canceled, and that's due to the state. That's not from our decision. We all are also expecting some loss in revenue or some obligation of funding because of some potential course retake chances for students. Many students signed up for on-ground classes because they know that they're not successful with online classes. And the change of their learning format is through no fault of their own. And so we want to make sure that they still get those learning outcomes they needed to get. And so we know that there might be some retake opportunities that need to happen this fall. We're also examining opportunities the college can use late this summer to help students catch up to be ready for college level work this fall. We've heard from many students that they are worried because now instead of that 2 to 3 months summer knowledge gap, it's becoming now 6-month summer knowledge gap. And so we're looking for non-credit ways to help them catch up with content knowledge. Next slide, please. Here's the biggest thing everyone hears about is the federal government actions. We have seen a small recognized loss in what we call Pell chargebacks. So this is when a student signs up for a class and financial aid is distributed and then the class is canceled. And so the federal government wants its money back. And that's what we call a Pell chargeback. And we've had a small bit of loss from that. But as the federal government continues to act, we expect that amount to lessen. I will say also this morning, we received instructions on how to get the college's funding for the CARES Act. And apparently things were released before computer people were ready to get those applications. So that's been interesting as well. We do recognize, as Anna's staff has worked with VA students, that many times when a VA student is full-time, they get cost of living stipends. And so if a class is canceled, it might drop them below a full-time status. And everything we're doing right now in the office is based on a case-by-case basis because we want to make sure that no student is damaged from this and that we're easing them into the best solution for them. So we're examining those things, working with the VA. So when I made this slide, it looked like that Mohave Community College would receive approximately $1.8 million from the CARES Act. How we'll access that, again, was in play this morning, but also as of this morning, it was up to 1.9 million. So I'm not sure why and how that's fluctuating, but we will draw down those funds and use them for our students as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. On my final slide, there have been some pretty dramatic language coming from the state economic outlook people and experts. And they said that our Prop 301 money, which is our share of the sales tax money that the state collects, and the economists have said it will sink like a stone. They want us to conservatively prepare for a 50% reduction in that collection of funds. As of 6 a.m. this morning, it went to even more dramatic numbers, but we will see at least probably $250,000 loss in our share of state sales tax, simply because it's just not there. The hotels are not seeing their revenue, the restaurants are not seeing their revenue, and what's there is just not there. Enrollment declines might reduce tuition and fees revenue. I will tell you that Mohave Community College has had a much better year than the other colleges this year, so our enrollment has been up while others have decreased. So when they are forecasting a decrease in enrollment, I'm hopeful we won't see what they're seeing. Our instruction and student services department work hand in hand to offer the right courses in the right ways to the right kids, well, students, and I'm confident that we will see a stable enrollment this fall. The tricky part, and we will cover this a little more later in this meeting, is the levy and property tax collections situation. Our levy and everybody's levy is based on a 3-year look-back average of property values. We have no idea what this epidemic is going to do to real estate prices, and so we don't yet know what that means for our next 3 years in revenue collections. So that could be a very rapidly moving figure. And so that's what I have for today. You'll see more on the levy a little bit later in the meeting. I'm open to any questions.
Any questions, Vance?
Oh, I think everybody's just done a wonderful job. I'm proud. I'm grateful for them.
All right, thank you very much. Susan? Questions, comments?
My question, yes, actually, I want to just reinforce what Vance and everybody else has said. I'm trying to stay quiet so I don't interrupt since you can't see me. But Sunny, how does the state investment fund look right now?
So Actually, it's holding stable. Fortunately, all of our investments are in bond funds, which has been the least volatile, most stable item. I will reveal that we made sure to pull down all of our gains back in February when we saw things like this happening. I just wanted to be sure to have our gain revenue in our bank account. This time of year, CFOs are paid to be pessimistic, and that's what I was acting on. And so all of our investment earnings were preserved and appear in our bank account now. Fortunately, the performance we've seen, since we are all in very conservative long-term bonds, has just been flat. So I'm actually really excited about that.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
Judy, did you have something, or you're putting thumbs up?
Some thumbs up for that, and
Okay.
just, you know,
Thank you.
I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just scary. And I don't know, you know, we don't know where all this is leading, and you guys are marvelous, and your brain is beyond value. It's, you're really doing a good job, you and your staff. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, back to Stacy.
Yeah, I will say that you're paying me to be optimistic. So I told Sunny to put all the money back in.
No.
And no, I did not. I know we've done a great job, and I appreciate Sunny keeps me informed with some spreadsheets on how she's been tracking all of the potential loss money that we have been spending in direct relation to COVID-19, and then plus both her and Heather and others have been keeping us informed of what's going on at the Fed level. So we're tracking that almost daily, and I appreciate the work. So I'll pass this on to Jenny.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. You can go to the next slide, Amy. So I'll just let you read all of the gobbledygook that came to us in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. What I can say is it provided a number of ways that employees can access federally funded leave in case that they are ill with the coronavirus, or they are caring for family members who are ill with the coronavirus if they've been quarantined, or up to 12 weeks of leave for employees who have to care for children due to school closures, which at the point that this was signed, we knew we were closed through April 10th, but now that schools in the state of Arizona have called off the remainder of the year, this becomes a valuable benefit to many of our employees who have school-aged children and have found themselves becoming the homeschool teacher suddenly, and provides them with a little bit of cushion in their day because they have paid leave in order to take care of that very important responsibility. And we encourage our parent employees and definitely support them as they take on that role. We set HR, once the act was signed into law, we immediately took steps to create a process for employees to access the leave, develop the forms, trained management and employees, held some Zoom sessions that people could sit in on and learn about how this was going to work. And that has been up and running for a week and a half now, and is going pretty smoothly at this point. Next slide, please, Amy. Also, as it became clear that we would not be returning to our regular campus-based jobs after spring break, it was important to make sure that every employee had an assignment that they could telecommute for. I was not at all in favor of any kind of layoff situation. I would rather give all of our employees an opportunity to work and continue with their benefits and continue with their job, regardless of what we could assign them to do. Luckily, both Mark Van Pelt and Anna Masterson came up with some tasks that we could assign employees to that would allow them to telecommute. We have a handful of employees, I would say 25 or 30 employees, that their job on campus does not relate to an at-home telecommute situation very well. It's focused on providing public service, direct face-to-face assistance. So there is a student contact project that Kaylin Tribus has been taking the lead on, and we have a data cleanup project that Sharon Hanks and Russ Isro has been taking folks under their wings and training them for, and we were able to offer every employee the opportunity to participate in one of these extra assignments, so that we have employees that fall into 3 categories. We have a large number of our employees who are just doing their normal assignment from a remote location. We have a small number of employees who are performing an alternate assignment from a remote location. And then we have a smaller number of employees who are considered, the position that they do is considered essential for campus function, and they are continuing to do their assignment on campus. But because we have removed everyone else from campus so that we only have teams of 10 or less, it is very easy to socially distance yourselves from others over multiple buildings in multiple acres to have these folks on campus. These are our maintenance and custodial teams. They're making sure that things are up and running, that our plumbing is taken care of, that there's no vandalism going on campus. They're doing a really important job by coming into the campuses every day and making sure that those facilities are safe and still functioning in the way that we want them to. I will say that we've had a handful, we've had 2 employees that have decided that the alternate assignment was not for them and have decided to separate from us. But over the complete number of employees that we have, I will take 2 as a win at this point.
Sure. Great. Sounds like a comprehensive activity. One question I have, Families First Act with the 2/3, that comes from our budget. Is that correct? We are paying this 2/3.
We are giving them 2/3 of leave. The feds have required it to be so. However, because we're a government entity, they are not going to give us a tax credit back on the backside. Okay. So if we were a private industry, we would be getting a break on our employer share of our Social Security and Medicare taxes that we pay, but the law specifically keeps government entities from collecting that benefit.
Just want that to be real clear, that 2/3 comes out of our budget, not from some government entity throwing money into our, Okay.
The good news for our budget, though, is it doesn't swing our budget one way or the other because it's coming from the funds we'd already allocated to pay their salaries.
Sure.
But we are not getting a benefit from the federal government for this.
Yeah, I understood that, that the money was already in the budget. I just meant, sometimes people think, oh, the government now is releasing more funds to cover these different programs, and that is not happening.
Correct.
Right, okay.
If we could move to my last slide, Amy. Further, HR and the employee services team is working on making sure that employees have access to all the benefits that they need. We've collected and distributed information about local medical provider protocols so that our employees know if they need to seek care, what the Kingman Hospital wants, which is slightly different from what Warm C wants, which is different from what Lake Havasu is asking for. So we've made sure that we've empowered our employees to make decisions with lots of good information. We've educated employees on the waived fees within their own benefit packages. We keep providing health-related information such as wellness webinars and newsletters. And in addition, working on some ways to focus employee connection, the emotional and emotional well-being of our employees as they are telecommuting. Being isolated is sometimes very difficult for folks. And so HR and Employee Services is working on leading the way in providing ways for MCC employees to connect back to MCC again and connect with each other so that there is a focus on their well-being and their happiness while we're in this situation.
Good.
Any questions?
Vance, Susan, not seeing your hands?
Nope,
Good.
Not me.
Okay, you're right in the thick of that kind of thing.
No, just fabulous job.
Yep. Full circle, comprehensive, 360 degrees. Thank you, each of you, and certainly you also. All right, back to Stacy.
Yeah, we'll move on to our last bit of information regarding the COVID-19 response, and that's with James.
Last and least, right? Is that it? That's how it goes?
No.
Yeah, but I didn't want to say it out loud.
Yeah, as you've heard, I really want to thank everybody. I mean, everybody that you've heard from so far, along with the faculty and staff, helping getting the messages out to everybody. It's when you consider an organization this size, with the number of students we have spread out over an entire county the size we have, the chance of miscommunication and missed communication, as you can imagine, is really high. Now, I had 30 slides to cover everything, but I was told to cut it to 3, so I guess I'll be brief for everybody. Right there, the first graphic you see. Hopefully you've seen that graphic. It tags our messaging as important for everybody. We've shared the college messages and actions on our key platforms. You see there on the left. Those, of course, based on marketing and audience surveys that we've done in the past that show where students and our community members get their news. Externally, our top platforms there include our partners at the newspapers and the radio, along with our social media channels, and of course the website where we activated the alert bar at the top. So everyone who goes to mohave.edu is directed to the informational landing page. The internal messaging platforms, just as important, Schoology there right at the top. That's where most students interface with, or all of the students will interface with their instructors and advisors, really the top location for them to get messages directly from the college. And I want to give a shout out to Krista King and Kelt for helping us keep that page updated with our messaging. And of course, emails and text and phone messages coming from the call center, directing everybody again to that website landing page. We'll get more on that in just a second. Now, go to slide 2 here, and I thought it would be helpful to give everybody a quick glimpse at the timeline, some of the key dates. You'll notice that this timeline matches what you saw from Danette earlier. It really shows how the college has been ahead on this whole thing. All of these dates, on all those dates you see right there, the Marketing and Public Information Office sent out messaging on those platforms we just discussed. And on the right there, just wanted to give a little bit of recognition to our media partners who help us keep our communities up to date. Those are some of the headlines from some of the recent news releases and informational briefings I've had with them to help get the message out there to keep our communities informed. On January 31st, this really needs to be a shout out to Dr. Klippenstein. He saw what was happening on the virus outside the region. We had the case of the ASU student in Phoenix. That came out on the 26th of January, and he wanted to get messaging out to our students and employees that, hey, we're monitoring this. We want you to stay healthy. So my office created the webpage to get some of this key messaging out about prevention and not panic, try to keep everybody healthy, let them know that we're monitoring this and their safety comes first. Then there really weren't any big developments locally, at least until March 10th. And that's when it was officially declared a pandemic. The college again notified students and employees about the website, the health recommendations from federal, state, and local health experts, and let everybody know that the college, again, monitoring this closely to expect elevated safety measures if needed. And then on March 11th, sent out more information about the college pandemic plan. The president actually sent an email to all students and employees letting them know about the plan and the potential actions that the college might take. And then on March 13th, when there were 9 cases confirmed in Arizona, the Phoenix area primarily, and with health experts warning to expect more, the college again notified everyone that at that point that we're monitoring it. And in fact, we're going to extend spring break for 1 week. And we'd use that time for college faculty and staff to prepare for limited face-to-face instruction. And that really shows we were ahead of the game. At that point, we were the only large institution in the county, from what I could gather at that time, that took that step out to actually take a preventative action like this that really affect that many people. And then 2 days later, we all learned about the first confirmed cases in the county. So it showed that we were ahead of it and thinking again about our students first and our employees and our communities. And the numbers have continued as we've seen to increase every day after that. On March 23rd, we sent out messaging about the college closing the campuses. And the president and administration also held Zoom meetings with all the employees to make sure everyone internally understood what was happening and why. And then that next day, the college president joined county supervisors for a news conference where he explained the steps that the college is taking to help prevent the spread of the virus in our communities. And then since then, as we've seen, it's just been consistent internal messaging that includes the president's video messages to students and employees. And you can, we go to the next page, you can see where we've been sending everybody this mohave.edu coronavirus. That's the informational landing page. All of our messaging directs people to go there so they can get the most up-to-date information about the college actions And there you're going to find quick links as well, which we've had up since we created it. Quick links that people can go to hit federal, state, and local health department websites, including the CDC, so they can get the recommendations and stay up to date, all in one place, really a one-stop shop, informational shop for everyone. So anyone who's not clear, if you hear anybody say they're not quite sure what the college is doing, you can tell them just head over to mohave.edu/coronavirus, and it's all right there. And again, just a big thanks to President Klippenstein, the administration, and all the employees for all the hard work, making sure everyone's in the loop on what's happening. And if you have any questions, Dr. Klippenstein's right there. So, ask him any questions on this. Thanks so much.
Thank you, James. Thanks for all you do. And certainly it's been proactive and out there in front, you bet. Any questions for Stacy or for James through Stacy? I noticed he signed off that camera real quickly.
He did.
I'm going to go put my head out the door and see if I can see him at the end of the street.
I gotta go get the recycling bin. I'll be back in a minute.
Well, mine up too. Thanks.
Well,
no questions? Okay.
Well, thank you all very much for that. As you can tell, a lot of great work. And if we, I know the board would want to do a sitting O, which means like a sitting ovation, which you just go like this, and that's all you need to do. So if you wish to do that, go right ahead. I apologize. Yeah, thank you. I apologize right now for the length of the presentation, but at the same time.
That's me clapping.
Oh, thank you, Susan. A one-hand clap. The length of the presentation, but necessary for you so you have a better understanding and awareness of everything that took place behind the scenes. And you as the board are representative of a very large county and a lot of constituents. And in case you get questions from your constituent base, wanted to make sure you had the right information and you know who has been involved, and if you have to, or if you need to make any direct contact with anybody to follow up with any specific questions from your constituents, we'd be happy to do that for you as well and assist. And just wanted to let you know that operations do continue and will continue, and we're here again to support our students first and be healthy and safe as we move on as well. So I hope that this information, even though it was long, but I thought it was necessary. And if you have any further questions or thoughts, you can always send me information, send me an email. I'd be happy to respond. So thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes that part of the President's report, and I'm willing to move on if you are.
I think we are. I'm trying to coordinate these 2 pages, so keep going. I found you.
Okay, I think I'm on D, if I got that correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, capital improvements. We have the Bullhead City Welding Facility in front of you today. Information is provided in your packet as well. Recently, we did have a visit with the Precise Builders as well as Seabury Fritz Architects. Great presentation. Many of our MCC folks were on that call as well to ask many questions. As you can see from the information provided, this is a project that is funded from the state's one time only. This is our #1 top priority. I know it's taken us about 3 months to get you to this point, but we are ready to move forward with seeking your approval of $660,000. That would be $600,000 for the project, $60,000 in contingency, roughly 10%. We would seek your approval today, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you. We're on page 5 of the agenda, item D. Looking for a motion, and then we'll have.
I'll make.
Before I have a.
Could we
I
have
have a question?
Wait, let's
before-
get a motion and then we can do discussion. Motion to award design build for Bullhead City Welding Building to Precise Builders Incorporated and Seabury Fritz Architects with the amount not to exceed $660,000, which is $600,000 cost plus 10% contingency.
We have a motion by Dr. Soberg.
This is Ashley, I second.
Ashley is the second. Okay, now discussion. Susan?
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to check to make sure that the state can't pull this one-time only money because of this economic downturn with COVID-19.
You mean like the
if we get it spent fast enough.
Yeah, very good question. I have not heard of anything that's in reference to pulling any other previously approved one-time only dollars. And I don't know, Sunny, if you have as well from the CBO group.
No, sir. Nothing that is affecting the fiscal year 1920. All discussion has to do with the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Susan. Anything else? Ready for the vote? Let's have a roll call, please, Miss Amy.
Julie Bear,
Yes.
Susan McAlpine,
Yes.
Vance Miller,
Yes.
Ashley Pascal,
In favor?
Judy Selberg.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for that support. I appreciate that. Item E is community partnerships, our downtown Kingman building purchase. We are very excited about continuing to move on this project. In your packet, we did provide again the appraisal report along with photos. We have been looking at and evaluating the inspection report. Dr. Gilbert, along with Dan Warden and also IT staff, have reviewed what we would consider potential just upfront needs once we take occupancy, as well as then future needs of the facilities that we would handle through a renovation project, and that would include anything exterior, interior, as well as HVAC and other envelope units or items such as windows and so forth. So we are still looking at that. It's been difficult for us to get in and to have meetings in the space to fully review for design phase. So today we're asking you only for seeking approval for the purchase of this facility at $625,000 plus associated closing costs. For the purpose of this, for people who might be on the phone publicly who are listening in, who might not be able to see this, I do want to read this part of the agenda. The college has made an offer on the property located at 309 East Beale Street in Kingman, Arizona, contingent upon inspection, appraisal, and board approval for the equivalent of $57 a square foot. Comparable properties have recently sold for roughly $100 a square foot or more. The college's ability to offer economic recovery partnerships between the Small Business Development Corporation, Chamber of Commerce, and Economic Development units within the city and the county will be critical as businesses restore operations. Despite the current pandemic declaration, this offer continues to be a conservative and prudent offer, and the college recommends proceeding with the purchase. I am extremely excited to be able to partner with the Chamber of Commerce and extremely excited to have visibility downtown with our SBDC office moved in a much more visible location for our businesses, small business development, as well as any business downtown. So today I seek your approval to move forward on this investment of $625,000 plus associated closing costs for the purchase of 309 East Beale.
Looking for a motion?
Motion to authorize the college president to finalize the purchase of 309 East Beale Street, Kingman, Arizona, in the amount of $625,000 plus any associated closing costs.
Seconded by?
I'll second.
And that would be
Mr. Miller.
Vance. Thank you. I'm sorry, Vance.
Man in there, he's got to be him.
It has to be him. It was a male voice, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking at 3 different locations and trying to get my voices straight. All right, we have Dr. Silberg, we have Vance Miller. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
I have,
Okay, let's go first to Susan on the phone, and then we'll come back to you, Ashley. Thank you so much.
I have 2 questions. I'm looking at the paperwork. It's page 64 on mine, but it talks about surplus land. Actually, it doesn't talk about it. It just has pictures of surplus land. So that would be question number 1. What is that? How much land is it, and is it subdividable? And then the second question is to Sunny, that the funding for this purchase is coming from those funds you removed from the state investment fund.
Yes, exactly what I was about to say. So that's why I pulled down those funds in addition to what's going on in the world. I wanted to preserve those funds right away in expectation of this discussion. So yes, those investment earnings are what we pulled down in expectation of this, and added it to the year before investment earnings, which had not been earmarked for anything at this time. The surplus land I'll have to look at real quick, unless Dr. Klippenstein has already looked and can answer, but let me pull up that attachment.
That's page 64.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would allow Sunny to complete taking a look at that. I have not heard that that would be to be able to be subdivided, but we can double check on that, Susan, as we go on.
No, it's only like about a fifth of an acre.
Yeah.
And I think it's parking.
Small. It's on
vacant.
yeah, it's on the left. Oh, well, I guess I should say west side.
Right, so it's a
Yeah,
half of a
so-
parking lot.
Right.
Good
And that's,
question.
and that's in a conjunction, and I've talked to Vance about this, that there's a relationship currently with the pawn shop on that piece of property, with the parking spaces, and that's something we would formalize with the pawn shop on the continuing use of that space, as well as to make sure we ensure that we are meeting codes with ADA parking.
Then my question to that would be then, if you're developing a relationship, is this just complementary relationship, or will they be helping to support perhaps some of the insurance requirements that would go along with using that parking lot?
That's something we would look at within the contract, along with our legal counsel review, and work with the pawn shop owner. Right now, I think if I remember correctly, the two owners of the two facilities have a kind of a handshake agreement, and the tax on that property was actually going through this 309 East Beale. And I think there was a relationship back with the pawn shop owner on that. So that's something we would clarify through both work with our legal counsel and work with the pawn shop owner.
Yeah, and
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
as the board knows, handshake agreements are not the ideal mechanism that the college works through. So we will work on getting that official agreement with that parking lot. But yes, it is entirely parking lot. And that's something we'll continue to keep the board apprised of as it changes.
Yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just think it's important to comment before we take our vote that in light of the situation and many hardships that people in our county are experiencing right now, I think that this opportunity, and I think about how that reflects on our vision statements and our values that we just reviewed earlier, and how this will hopefully put MCC in a ready position to be that community partner that we strive to be, and be there with this infrastructure in place to support the economic recovery of our county. So I just wanted to make sure I stated that.
I'm glad you did. Thank you very much. Well said. Any other comments or questions? And we have your questions clarified then, Susan. The answers were clear to you? No other information needed. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you, Ashley. You were putting into words something that I've been thinking and hadn't pulled the words together yet.
Oh, good.
You're a wordsmith. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ready for a roll call vote?
Julie Bear,
Yes?
Susan McAlpine,
Yes.
Vance Miller,
Yes.
Ashley Pascal,
Yes.
Judy Selberg.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much, all. All right. Yeah, Dr. K?
I'm clapping. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the support. Moving on to F, Arizona Community College State Level Council Reports. I know Sunny's going to be providing a quick report coming up on what they call the skinny budget from the legislature. As you all know, they closed, gosh, I now want to say 3 weeks, but I might be off. Their plan was to come back on April 13th. I doubt that that will happen as well. As you know, a lot of things were put on hold, but they did pass a skinny budget to move forward. And again, Sunny will provide information on that. House Bill 2790, as you know, we've been following, and that's the baccalaureate degree offering bill for community colleges. That has been on hold, like all other bills. And the last we heard, it was in the Senate, and there might be possible amendments for a study bill associated with it, but we, at this given moment, do not know. We are continually following and watching for the potential return date, as well as our lobbyists are on top of and communicating with legislators. And so when we do start back up, we're on top of everything from an AC4 community college as well as Mohave Community College perspective. One of the things that I do know that Sonny mentioned earlier, but it is a concern with the Prop 301 and sales tax revenue that comes to us and that impact this year and potential for next year. Again, we'll be continually monitoring that one. The JLBC report that you all have is a little bit of an older report. I know as of today, Sonny sent me some information, and there's some information out regarding in the month of April, starting in April, of where we've seen the COVID-19 impact on our economy. And there's potentially current projection that the state could have about a $1.1 billion shortfall, give or take $500 million. It's a big range, so it could be up to $1.6 billion, could be less. But that does have potential major impact on future upcoming decisions by the legislature. There are some things that we're doing well going into April, and that's the March general fund revenues were up 8.1%. They still show that Arizona ranked third among states on the last quarter based on revenue gain and activity. So there was some really good movement in Arizona for the state budget and potential allocations, rainy day funds, you name it. But obviously, starting in April, we started to see a potential shortfall. So that's just a quick update that I have from that area, Madam Chair, and no other updates or current events from me on letter G.
All right, thank you so much. So we are going over to item 10. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you're aware, last year, 12 months ago, the nursing programs were put on probation by the Arizona State Board of Nursing, and I am going to stand aside and let Nurse Weiss give us an update on our current status. June?
June.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank
Good morning,
you.
Madam Chair.
Good
Dr.
morning. Nice to see
Klippenstein.
you.
Nice to see you too. I'm glad everyone appears healthy.
Coming from you, that's a compliment.
So as Stephen indicated, I'm going to give you a brief update on the status of the practical nurse program as well as the Associates of Applied Science degree in nursing program. So in September of 2017, the practical nurse program and the Arizona State Board of Nursing and Mohave Community College entered into an agreement that we would place that program on a 24-month probation period. During those 24 months, I submitted quarterly reports to illustrate.
Their mic, their phone is ringing in. Thank you. I'm sorry, June, go ahead, please.
You're fine. I submitted quarterly reports to the State Board of Nursing as a way to illustrate the work that was being done. Every quarter they provided feedback. The changes that we made include updating the curriculum so that it was more contemporary and more in line with the scope of practice for the practical nurse. We also reassigned some faculty and provided professional development for that group. The NCLEX first-time pass rates increased immediately the following semester to 83%, up from 66 and 72%. And then the semester after that was in the mid-90s, and this past group so far is at 100%. So, so through the quarterly reports and through the improved pass rates, the board agreed that there was improvement, that we met the terms of the agreement, and on April 1st, they removed our probationary status for the practical nurse program.
Hooray, hooray.
In March of 2018, after our joint site visit with ACEN, we agreed again to be placed in a 18-month probationary period. During that time, there was about a 12-month period of time where we focused on professional development for the faculty. The issue was a lack of assessment and data-informed program evaluation. And so the faculty were developed. We had lots of workshops where we did lesson plans and aligned all the work and all the assessments being done to course and program learning outcomes. They aligned exam questions to outcomes. They began meeting weekly to discuss the results of assessments, and we were trending. And so again, quarterly reports, we were providing this data to the State Board of Nursing. They were pleased. The maintenance plan for this particular program includes the hiring of a nursing programs evaluation specialist, and this individual is focused primarily on the data, and she pulls exam scores, assessment scores from a variety of places, and she puts them all together, and she meets with the faculty. And by having this position, we've been able to address one of the biggest barriers to faculty buying into assessment, and that is they don't know what to do with all the data, right? And so in my case in particular, they're nurses. They don't understand spreadsheets. And so Amber is able to take this data and present it to the faculty weekly, and they're able to then close those gaps in knowledge very quickly because of how quick Amber pulls the data together. And so as of April 1st, the board agreed that we had done some great work, and they released us from our probationary status.
What a wonderful report, and certainly congratulations to everyone, and thanks to you and those that helped you with all of this, getting us back on track and a timely manner. And yes, clapping. Thank you. Congratulations. And
thank you. Any questions?
Susan, I do. What type of data are they looking for?
You know, they're not looking for specific data. What they want to see is that the program is making decisions, or at least using the data to make informed decisions. So we're not just making changes because we think it's a good idea. They want to know that students are struggling in a particular area, so we're going to correct that. So, you know, we're evidence-based.
Academic.
Good. That I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, June.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, back to Stephen.
And Madam Chair, this is Stacy. I just wanted to
Yes.
jump in real quick. I just wanted to say thank you very much to June and the faculty for the work that they've done since she started there, and the stuff that I've seen over the last 8-9 months. A lot of hard work, incredible work, and I greatly appreciate June. Thank you very much, June.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy. I didn't mean to overlook you. I
No,
tried to get my eyeballs coordinated there. Thanks so much. All right, additional course fees, Stephen Eaton.
Unfortunately, thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, we were running a little bit behind and were unable to get final approval from CASA for the courses that you see in the agenda to establish these course fees. And so we're looking for a motion and acceptance of these additional course fees.
Okay, so what you're saying is they weren't available when we did the other course fees, and that's why they're coming in April.
Exactly right. There were some last minute modifications to the courses, and so they didn't get CASA approval before the March board meeting.
Right, just a bookkeeping thing. All righty, looking for a motion, and then we'll have discussion if you have any. Motion?
Motion to approve the fees for the courses outlined above for the academic year 2020-2021.
Thank you, Vance Miller.
Second.
And second, and Susan McAlpine. Thank you both very much.
Yes.
The 2 phone call people, that was helpful. All right, questions, discussion on the course fees. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Amy?
Julie Bear,
Yes.
Susan McAlpine,
Yes.
Vance Miller,
Yes.
Ashley Pascal,
In favor?
Judy Selberg.
Yes.
All right, 5-0. Thank
carries.
you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. C, back to Stacy for item C, instructional delivery. Oh,
Yeah,
no, it's back to Stephen, I'm sorry.
Well, if you don't mind, Madam Chair and Stephen, just real quick, I just wanted to say we're excited about this upcoming opportunity in working with HDS. I know Stephen will provide some more feedback. One of the things, we do have a meeting with the company later today and their CEO So we're excited to continue that dialogue if you so choose to approve us to move forward with this. So I'll pass it back off to Stephen.
Thank you. Appendix 6 and back to Stephen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We put out a RFP to give some outside vendors an opportunity to take over our truck driving training program, since ours was not as efficient or as well enrolled as we had hoped. We did get one response from the folks that you see in the appendix. Their initial response had a few holes in it, so we got on the phone and asked some pretty in-depth questions, and the response from them was just exactly what we wanted to hear. They are a successful concern down in Tucson and serve several of our sister schools. So we are looking for your support in pursuing a contract with this truck driving institute.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Motion to, go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I didn't even realize I was still on. I was reaching. Motion to contract with HDS Truck Driving Institute to provide CDL driver training as it appears in the appendix.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
All right. Motion seconded by Miller, motion by McAlpine, and thank you all. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please, Amy.
Julie Bear,
Yes.
Susan McAlpine,
Yes.
Vance Miller,
Yes.
Ashley Pascal,
Yes.
Judy Selberg.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
If we can't get to this, the last motion before noon, maybe we could do it so that I could vote on it. It's,
You mean you want to reorganize the agenda? We can,
well, I'm afraid, I have that other conference
okay,
call.
just a second. That's the employment compensation package.
Yeah, exactly.
To be part of that motion is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Amy, what's the call on reorganizing the agenda at midpoint? I can't remember. It's been, I don't think we ever had to do it. So,
That is allowed to take any item in any order.
okay, well, we're going to skip then from time-wise so we don't crunch the others that have things to say in items 11, 12, and 12. We're going to go ahead and go over to Jenny Dixon if she is in fact ready. Jenny, are you ready for your portion? Can you come out of order, or is that putting an unfair?
I'll go ahead and, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, to move forward while Jenny's getting set up with this, and
Okay.
Amy as well. One of the things, as you all know, Amy and I have presented to you that this year, with Sunny's help and Jenny's help and Jennifer Picard's help, put together an employee compensation committee involving 8 representatives from across all of the campuses. That included 8. So Eric Jones, Michelle Martin, Michelle Braymeyer, Rosemary Lefebvre, let's see, Julie Kerwick, Nancy Clark, Mitzi Esbro. And so I just wanted to say thanks to them. They did provide us a report prior to completing this exercise and bringing this information forward to you. I think you'll find that what Jenny will say today really does mirror a lot of the work and a lot of the recommendations that came forward from this employee comp team. So we do hope to continue that committee as we move forward into the next few years and hear their feedback for us. So I do appreciate their work. And some of the adjustments that we made over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks to the employee comp really did come down to the taking a look at the potential loss in upcoming revenue. We wanted to make sure that we were being prudent and being conservative in some ways, paying attention to those, but also attempting to pay attention to where our faculty and staff all land when it comes into compensation comparisons throughout the state. Jenny and her crew did a wonderful job with that as well. So what we're presenting to you today hopefully is very sound. It makes sense to me, makes sense to Jenny and many others. And again, it does mirror a lot of the work that the employee comp team did. So I'll pass it off to Jenny if she is ready, and we'll go from there.
We have actually lost Miss Dixon. I would assume she is attempting to get back in.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I can run through if you need to. If
That'd
she
be
can't
fine.
get back in, I'd be happy to run through.
And then I would like you to reiterate, when you're through with the presentation, the adjustments from the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'd like you to reiterate that part, please. Thank you. So Stacy, if you go ahead, that's fine.
Okay, and when Jenny does come in, we'll just have her, because I know she has a presentation, but Amy, did you want to pull
I
that?
have the presentation as
Okay.
well, if you give me a minute.
All right.
And Anna's on standby. She realizes that we put Anna and Sunny off, and they know that, so we'll.
And if Sunny is still on too, she can help with some of the information.
All right. So if anybody's ready with the presentation, I think it's also in our board packet, but in order to get on the screen for anyone else watching.
Correct. Yeah, it is in your board packet.
Gotcha there. So board members, you can be looking at yours. It's in your appendices, 6-page PowerPoint. There it is on the screen.
Great.
Because we can't get on it unless we get off of Zoom and into the.
Well, I'm looking at my iPad and at the computer. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Can
So-
everyone, first of all, can everyone see that it's on the screen? So anybody that can't see it, it's also available in the governing board agenda packet that's posted online at MCC or mohave.edu, so that anybody from outside that's having trouble hearing it will simply to the website and it's there. Okay, and Jenny's there too now. So who wants to go? Stacy, Jenny, what are we gonna do?
Did Jenny get on? I apologize.
Yeah, she did. No, that.
Yes,
pulled it
I'm
out
back.
there.
Somehow Zoom had frozen me out and I had to jump out and jump back in again.
Okay.
Thank
you.
you. So.
Benny, do you want to pull up your PowerPoint instead of the PDF?
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now.
I think I'm looking at it. Yeah, we were looking at it.
Because of time, I'm going to hurry through the first 3 or 4 slides where I present the same information every year about the
Well, in case
budget
anybody from outside
model,
watching.
how So the compensation package is split out into benefits and health insurance. Sometimes our benefits cost a lot and we have less money for salaries. Sometimes our benefits don't cost as much. We have more money for salaries. Unfortunately, this year, our biggest hit is going to be the premium increase for our health insurance. It's going up $90 per person per month. That's a bigger annual increase than we've seen at all in the last 10 years. There's nothing to be done about that. That's just the way it goes with insurance. We had a really high claim ratio this last year through nobody's fault necessarily. It just turned out that way. And so that will affect how our package looks. Additionally, Arizona retirement is going up a little bit again this year from 12.11% to 12.22%. We're going to absorb that as well. And then I'm going to skip the additional considerations that we had to really look at is that we had some employee groups who were falling behind when we looked at them with their market comparators, specifically faculty as a group. The last time that we compared to our in-state comparators, our faculty pay rates were at the bottom, and we didn't want to see that. And so we have 78 full-time and part-time regular faculty, we used to call them resident faculty, and over 100 adjunct faculty who were caught up in this disparity. Additionally, January 1st, the Fair Labor Standard Act threshold for being exempt, the salary threshold changed, and that affected the P-level staff. As we moved to one group to comply, it caused a compression within the whole P-level salary structure, and that affects 44 employees. So we worked towards a resolution that took into account the increase in our benefits and these groups that have special circumstances that we needed to. This information was all provided to the employee comp team. They did a fantastic job putting together a proposal, and presenting it to the president for consideration. So drawing heavily from their proposal, here is Mohave Community College's 2020-21 compensation proposal. It includes a 1.8% individual pay increase for all salary groups. All pay groups. That's faculty, professional staff, support staff, and administration, awarded as per the established policies, procedures, and guidelines. In addition, $1,000 salary schedule adjustment for full-time faculty, and this will be year one of a 2-year proposal. We'll need to adjust them again the following year to really come back to where we normally sit. That will also include year one of a 2-year process, and a $1,000 individual pay adjustment for compressed P-level staff, year one of a 2-year process. And then other individual pay adjustments as necessitated by benchmark data. Every year we look at how we are doing compared to schools within our state that are not Maricopa and not Pima. And at our comparator schools in usually the Mountain West that have similar sized, similar service areas, and we have a list of those. And so annually we do look and make sure that our individual pay adjustments can coincide so that we remain attractive as we try to get applicants into our vacant positions. MCC will absorb 100% of the health premium increase on top of that. The way that will figure in and how it looks compared to what we've done in past years, here's the history of it with 2020, 2021 added at the end there. You can see that we had 7 to 8% medical increases the last 3 years. The average increase is 13. That's going to take a large portion of what we normally spend on salaries. And then the past 3 years, our focus has been on hourly staff as we've worked to keep up with that minimum wage increase every year. And because of that, some of the other groups fell behind. And so we felt it was really important this year to address at least partially these groups that were falling behind. And so the total cost for all of the proposal, including all of the adjustments, is $591,069. It's a little above where we normally spend, and that is because of the benefit increase. There's just not a lot of getting around that. I know that was quick. I wanted to be sure to get through this in Judy's time frame. Are there any specific questions about it?
Oh, looking back at your slides, it's obvious that most of it is because of the, the money is being shifted into benefits, and though the total cost has gone up a bit, the benefits have gone up a lot more, haven't they? So thank you for that. I would like to remind anybody listening online that doesn't have access to video of this because of their own personal system for dialing in, that this information is all on the mohave.edu website under Board of Governors, and it's all listed very clearly for every month. I see your hand, Judy. I'll be right with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we had enough time to discuss this because I know it's very important. And
that's
so
fine, Judy.
That's why I asked it be moved, because we thought we were going to be on at noon, but we're not. So
Judy, hold on.
The benefits are astounding, and I think that we have to make those adjustments, because otherwise people are just going to fall further and further behind. And what with the economic stress that they're going through now, I think it would just compound the problem. So I'm not surprised.
Okay, well, let's go ahead, and we have the information provided to us, and we will have opportunity for discussion after we have a motion. So does anyone want to make the motion, please?
Yes, I will. Motion to approve the compensation package, including the salary schedules as they appear in the appendix for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Thank you, Vance Miller.
Second.
Second by Dr. Selberg. Now we're ready for discussion, but once again, I must reiterate that this information is all available online through the mohave.edu website. Should anybody calling in or looking in have any questions, please contact Dr. Klippenstein and he will refer you to the right places and discuss anything that you would like to say, since we don't have the capability of seeing you. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Susan, any discussion? Bounce back in if you're ready, when you're ready. Ashley? I don't see a hand. Ashley, anything from you?
No discussion, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Selberg?
No more comments, thank you.
No more comments, okay. And Vance? And none for me. Okay, ready for the roll call vote.
Oh, no, wait a minute, I had a comment. I'm sorry, I must have been on mute.
I guess you couldn't get your bounce back in. We're ready, Susan, thank you.
Okay, anyhow, I just wanted to say that this proposal really creates a philosophical dilemma for me. I appreciate the extraordinary efforts of our faculty and staff, yet I'm really concerned about the fact that our taxpayers continue to fund a significantly higher proportion of our budget. So before we take a vote on this, I really need to repeat my hopes and desires that we as a college will continue to investigate other sources of income so that we begin to reduce the burden on our taxpayers. I'm done.
All right, thank you for reading your comment into the record, Susan. It's sincerely appreciated. Any other input that I might have missed? Okay. I really hope that in May, we'll have a way to see you by video, Susan. Then I won't know when you're gonna speak. That'll be great. All right, ready for the roll call vote. Amy?
Bear,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pascal,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Should we go ahead, since we have Jenny right there now, and make it easier to facilitate? Let's go ahead and do that human resources report, just because it's usually pretty simple. It's in appendix 10A and B. Folks, you want to look at your appendix, or Amy, can you get up 10A and B?
Yes.
Thanks. Then we'll come back to you, Anna and Sunny, all right?
So I have for
You want a motion?
Yes. Ready for the human resources motion. Thank you, Vance.
Motion to approve the Human Resources Report for the month ending March 31st, 2020 as presented in the appendix.
Second.
That is Susan. All right, second by Susan. Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. We're ready for the roll call vote. Amy?
Bear,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pascal,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Judy, you have about 8 minutes for your next meeting, so if you're ready to log off, we certainly understand, or you're certainly welcome to stay and listen, do whatever you like. We're gonna go ahead now and take a quick inhale of our breath and go back to item 11, Student Services, Anna Masterson. So everybody bear with us while we get back there, please. And whenever Anna's ready and Amy's ready with the control switch there, we're ready for
I
you.
am just sharing a quick screen. Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. Just a quick enrollment update, and I know that everybody is anxious to wrap things up.
Well, not to the point that we want to cut anybody short. That's why I wanted to make sure we.
Yeah, we're good. We're back, and I've got 9 more minutes, so I'm good.
Great. And so spring enrollment, we're maintaining, as mentioned in my prior presentation, under the COVID-19 response, we have lost a little bit of ground with enrollment, specifically regarding those students or those classes that we couldn't offer into continuation of spring. However, we're still above from last year. So we're over 32,000. Still, summer enrollment just started on Monday. However, we stand at 2,200 plus credits. And then Summer Bridge is just picking up. We had some decisions to be made regarding Summer Bridge and having that all online. That is the decision that's been made. And so recruiters are promoting that heavily in the high schools, and we do have significant interest. So I do expect it to pick up. Fall enrollment begins April 20th. Any questions at this time?
Data is very clearly presented. Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you so much.
You betcha. Okay, Administrative Services, Ms. Marbury.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. Good to see you virtually again. I don't want to be seen as rushing because my topics are not important. I want to emphasize that what I'm covering now, through the encouragement of both Dr. Klippenstein and the board, I will be holding Zoom meetings off hours, so in the evenings and on the weekends, to cover this exact topic. It's a really important topic that needs to be vetted and the public needs to be heard. So I'm going to make sure that I have enough sessions virtually that everyone who wants to be heard can be heard, and seek both online interactive comments as well as collect comments for a later date.
Before you go on, take a breath. I want to thank you and commend you for that, because it's right in line with what you started at the beginning of the calendar year, so that the public was invited and involved and aware, and I really respect your opportunities again, and thank you so much, Sunny, for inserting that in there.
Thank you, and I appreciate the board's encouragement that it's interesting to more people than just me. So,
yes, it is.
Excuse me. First, I am going to attempt to share my screen. Amy, if I'm about to go wrong, set off an alarm, but I'm going to share my screen for the skinny budget. Let me find it. It's a quick little share, and I'm not seeing it on my stuff. Darn it.
I don't see it in my
yeah. Oh, here we go. I had to go down further. Here we go.
Okay.
So I will share this now. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
No. Yes. You can see the state of Arizona revenue budget?
Yep.
Perfect, because my screen switched into a funny way. This is a quick 2-slide scenario. Because things are changing every moment of every day, I wanted to be sure that you all knew where this stood as of 2 days ago. The first slide shows you what we had started to budget and expect for next fall, and that was a little over $2 million from the state. This was quite a lovely surprise because there was an additional category that had about $500,000, and that was what the state was calling rural aid, and they had named Mohave Community College specifically as receiving that almost $500,000. Because of the COVID crisis, can everyone see the next slide? The legislature wanted to quickly pass what they called the skinny budget. It's not body shaming, it's just a small budget. And you can see the change. So that $500,000 we thought we might get is not in that skinny budget. So the state aid for operating funds is still preserved in there. It dropped a small amount, and that's because our actual FTSE numbers came in, our full-time student equivalent. And so you can see that reflected from 1819 to 1920. It dropped slightly, which reduced our income, well, our revenue of about $12,900. But the big loss was that rural aid named specifically for Mohave Community College. And that made it so that we are now receiving $508,700 less in 2020, 2021. So our next fiscal and academic year. Those are important things to notice because this morning when we received the briefing for the JLBC, the Joint Budget Committee, the state economic forecasters, you can see where things are almost becoming statistically irrelevant because they've said that in 2022, the state will have a shortfall of about $1 billion. And in 2023, the state will have a shortfall of $624 million. But here's where it's becoming statistically irrelevant because then they said a 1% error changes the balances by $725 million. So what we can rely on is really a moving object at this point. We do know that the state has a rainy day fund of $973 million. In 2008, when they tapped into the rainy day fund, that went almost entirely to the K-12 system. So I don't think that will be part of our recovery either. So we will see how things go as we enter into this fall. But we are not at this time foreseeing more funding coming to community colleges at this point. So that's the skinny budget. And let me see if I can stop sharing my screen. Meeting controls. How do I emphasize those? Oh, Amy, if you did that, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next thing we have is the TNT levy. Amy, would you be able to assist me with that PowerPoint or those slides so I don't screw it up again?
Yep, just give me 2 seconds.
Okay, this is what I wanted to emphasize is so important and still a moving object. And this is my primary reason for wanting the new road show coming up later on. This is a huge consideration, and we take very seriously what Board Member McElwain brought up, that we are constantly seeking other sources of revenue, because to put the burden on the county taxpayer, increasingly so, is just not a good way to sustain our college. So we are always considering other means of revenue. And this is why I want to have these meetings later on to collect more ideas and more input from the taxpayers, as well as the board members. So we're covering this again later. Please keep an eye out for the meeting notice, because that will be happening. So these are our TNT levy considerations for this fall. First, regardless of what the board chooses to do with TNT, that's our truth and taxation hearing. Regardless of what the board does, the college is entitled to an additional $610,000 simply because of new construction. So that's why Jenny and Dr. Klippenstein were working so hard to bring down that employee compensation package to make sure we're under, oh, if you can go back for me, I'm sorry, I'll hurry up, I get the hint. Okay, but we're keeping that under the new construction figures so that we're safely sustaining our budget. If the board chooses to increase the TNT levy by 2%, the college will be entitled to another $500,000 in Mohave County property tax. You're now seeing a theme of $500,000 all over the place with this COVID crisis. It's important to remember the levy is based, again, on that 3-year look back, and it's the assessed value, not the market value. That's important for anyone who's owned property that went through the housing crisis in the early 2000s. Your assessed value is going to be much lower than the market value as we see that look back. And that's what we don't know we're going to experience for the 3 years after this coming fiscal year. We don't know what's going to happen to those real estate prices. As a sidebar, it's important to note that those with a fixed income are often those over 65. Those are entitled to what they call a senior freeze. And I've put the link there so that those fixed income households of people over 65 can freeze that assessed value so that they're not experiencing that increased property tax. Next slide, please. Sorry. Oh, this is just what I said. So if your home was built before the crisis, your assessed value and market value are going to be widely apart. My personal one, there's over $100,000 in the difference between what is claimed to be market value, which I doubt, but what's claimed to be market value and my assessed value, there's over $100,000 difference. And again, it's a 3-year look back. We don't know what we're going to face. Next slide, please. Everything I discuss is based on a $100,000 value for the sake of talking the same language. And that $100,000 value is based on the statute from the state. So as we get deeper into this, we can start talking about specifics when we have that workshop. But for sake of conversation today, I want to keep it at that $100,000 value. Sources that I've looked at said Mohave County, the average assessed value is $170,000. So we're not that far off. So again, no matter what action the board takes, the taxpayer will pay less in property tax next year. I know it's very against intuitive thinking. So a no vote on the TNT increase means that the taxpayer would pay $2.59 less next year than they did this year, so 22 cents a month. A yes vote means that you're paying less and less And that's the problem, is it's hard to communicate. So a yes vote means the taxpayer will pay $1.14 less next year, so 10 cents a month. The difference is if the board bypasses the TNT increase, they're going to save the taxpayer an extra $1.45 per year, so 12 cents a month. So personally, for me, because of my house assessed value, that's about 24 cents a month. And so it's important to weigh the individual taxpayer burden against the collective benefit of that 12 cents a month. Those are the slides I have for today. And I'm hoping that you can take this information and really start to think about it and mull it over so that when we have these conversations and the next workshop, we can start to talk about specific values, what it means specifically to the Mohave County taxpayer. So if we looked at that $170,000 value, it means a no vote is $4.40 less per year. A yes vote is $1.94 less per year. So again, I want a workshop later to talk about this more, and that's the end of my slides for the TNT. But I would really like everyone to come to that workshop later, and we can start working real life examples and start really understanding what these numbers mean. It's really important for everyone to understand. Beyond the taxpayer, I've gotten the information out to our staff and our faculty. As taxpayers and as employees, this is such an important topic, so I'm hoping people will dig in. My last items are the ones that you're used to. I'm sorry, before I go on, I should ask for questions on that levy. Okay.
I would say at this point, I'm sorry, I had muted myself. That's a cursory overview, and I have a few specific questions, but I think I'll just send them to you to make sure that I'm asking something that makes sense. I want to be able to verbalize it better.
It's such a huge topic, and that's why I want a workshop dedicated specifically to this. The questions are vast, and depending on,
I'm sorry, my mistake.
Oh, depending on your perspective, you know, and what role you play in this, your questions could vary widely. So I want to be sure to give it more time later on in a separate workshop.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Definitely.
It is 12:04.
I know, but I got 15 minutes. I just texted that student and told her that I was going to be late because this one was running over.
That's fine. Vance, anything from you at this point?
No, I just think this is exciting. I'm glad that Sunny's presenting it this way.
Super. Susan, anything you want to say specifically today, or do you want to wait till we have more information?
Nope. Thank you, Sunny, for all your work. It really helps make things clear.
I'm happy to. And like I said, I'm a taxpayer too, so I like coming at it from this angle. So my final two reports
hold on,
Ashley,
Sunny.
I'm just looking for Ashley. I see her, but no comments. Okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I do have lots of questions that I will reserve for the workshop.
Gotcha.
Excellent. I am actually looking forward to it. I like when people have to talk about my fun stuff.
If I may, Madam Chair,
you may.
I know that we talked about having this on the agenda in case there is some views and or questions that will need to be asked, but at the same time, knowing that we are coming up on a timeline with moving this forward for the May agenda, if there's any thoughts or questions from any of the members that they wish to just send to me individually to help me better as the CEO to work with Sunny and Amy and James to move forward with this or not in May.
Okay,
Thank
so what is the timeline for having it published in time? What are we looking at time-wise?
James will tell you that it was last week. So we have to run ads based on statutory timelines. Those ads, I believe James was supposed to get out to the papers today. The running all the ads for the college runs about $3,000. So James is sensitive to using those funds for this and keeping compliant with the law. So James, I don't know if you haven't, I'm assuming James is still on. And I don't know if he had any other advice on how tight we can run that ad placement.
Or if Amy has any idea on the timeline.
Yeah, if the April 30th is what we were looking at for a timeline. They like to have the ads 3 weeks before and then booked right about today. So I was actually just typing up an email to send to Sonny and Dr. Klippenstein asking if we wanted to move forward with the ads. So I would place those, contact the local papers today to place the ad.
Well, I can speak for myself only, and that is, in the past, I've always supported TNT every single year. I thought I had a handle on how it was going to impact us now as compared to 3 years down the road when we look at the flashback and what's going on now, which I know doesn't factor in this year, you know. But I really would need more clarification before I can make a decision. Obviously, we're not ready to vote on that anyway. My own personal viewpoint would be $3,000 is probably a good expenditure if we are forced to have to determine that on a real quick timeline, and then have all of our understandings, mutual 5 different heads working, and before we come obviously to any kind of a decision. However, if Dr. Klippenstein brings it forward, it doesn't mean he's going to bring forward a recommendation in May at TNT hearing that we approve it. He may be bringing forward an administrative decision that we had looked at it and considered it. He had looked at it and considered it, and at that time was or was not promoting it. So that would be one option, Stacy. That would, you know, is the $3,000 worth the opportunity for you to have more time, obviously, and for the board members to learn more, which they're going to have to do. How do you feel about that?
No, I totally understand and would agree, Madam Chair.
Okay. So at this time, I'm sorry, we'll get right back to you. At this time, did you want to make a recommendation that we spend the $3,000, that you're going to spend the $3,000? Do you want to inform us of that at this time, or do you want to hear more input from board members?
If there's any input from board members, I'm fine to listen before I make a final decision.
Okay.
And I'll work with Sonny and James on that, and Amy as well, behind the scenes if we move that forward.
Just wanted to facilitate and expedite your opportunity. All right, Judy, let's go to you first, since you may.
Well, I have a question. We were talking about a workshop for us. Is that correct?
Workshop.
No, the workshops for the general public.
Yeah, where we could also be present.
And we could be there. Yeah. Okay. And when are those scheduled for?
It would be the end of April.
Okay.
Before we had to make a decision as individuals, if it came to the board for voting. Okay.
All right. So we could attend those. Okay.
Ashley?
Susan?
Okay, Susan. Thank you, Susan.
I just had a question. If you're going to hold a workshop and they haven't released us from this self-imposed quarantine until the 1st of May, you're going to do them on Zoom?
That'd be virtual, sure.
Yes, at this point, that's what I'm planning is a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure any other options we may have, and people are becoming more and more creative. But at this point, we're going to move forward with Zoom, and certainly I'm sure the campus deans would facilitate on ground if things were to change drastically before then.
Okay, thank you.
Vance, any questions, comments for Stacy before we make a decision, or he's going to make his own decision?
No, I sent him a text, so
Okay.
no, I'm good.
That's fine. Thanks so much. Ashley's sneezing. I know she has allergies. We're going to announce that right away. Even if she doesn't, we've got to let everybody know we have allergies. All right. And you're fine with whatever you'd like to send. Okay. So Stacy, do you have enough input now that you will decide what you're going to do and you'll let us know? Is that correct?
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and the rest of the board, and Sonny too for the presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just want
So
to
we will hear from you then.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Stacy, yeah.
And I think on the bright side, running those ads is another way to reach out to the taxpayers and let them know what's important. And it might encourage them to attend a workshop. So just to educate and learn more, which is what we're about. So
yes, I'm wondering this option though, and I like Zoom myself, but I'm wondering, looking at how few attendees we had, if there's actually an understanding of how to do this, or why I'm a public person, I should do this. I'm out here in the general public wanting information. It doesn't seem like we certainly didn't get participation though. It was widely announced. So, but we never have anybody at our meetings, so this was kind of a treat. All right. We're
Okay.
ready to go back to the monthly financial reports.
Yes, so these are my regular reports. First is the monthly cash flow or cash position report. This is where we have the $15 million in the bond investments. We again pulled down all those gains in February and March so that we've preserved them into our bank accounts, but you can see how that's reflected in this. You can see where I pulled down those gains by the green line under there in deposits. That's higher than usual for March because I wanted to draw all those earnings into our bank accounts. So that's the only difference on this cash position report. And then next are our monthly budget to actual reports. Through the encouragement of Dr. Klippenstein, I've tried to add a comment at the very bottom. I'm going to get better at it, and I'm going to describe things better if you'll be patient with me as we go from month to month. You can see on the first one, though, again, it's what I've been emphasizing all along. While maintenance of plant appears to be much less than last year, it's simply because we don't have a large construction project. And I anticipate as our strategic plan forms and we enter into year 0, that those budgeted expenses will go up in a thoughtful and planned way. So I think that's a good thing. The next page is your primary revenues ratio. And you can see from that one-time only state appropriations funds, we're ahead of what we expected to be this year and in comparison to last year because we are drawing down those funds as quickly as possible as we start into that one-time only project in Bullhead City. The next page, you're going to see a greater fluctuation in the travel line. Right now, it appears to be 47% of the budgeted for the year. It's a little bit further down, Amy, sorry. You can see travel is 47% of the budget of the year, even though we are at 75% of the fiscal year. So I was happy with that amount, but as all travel and conferences have been canceled, all those monies are now returning to the college. So that number is going to fluctuate wildly as we start bringing that money back into the college. That is some of the offset to the expenses we're having for COVID. And we're trying to say, since we're saving money with those travel and conferences, we can put it towards technology so that people can still go after professional development in a more virtual way. Finally, the capital expenditures. Again, that's lower this year simply because we're anticipating a strategic plan coming up for the next fiscal year. So I look forward to being able to report more dynamic things happening at that time. Are there any questions for any of those reports?
Hearing none? All right. Thank you very much again, Sunny, for all of your information. We've had item B, the Human Resources Officer speak for us, and she's covered those. We covered both of her items. For the good of the order, we're on to item 13, our next meeting. And it's going to be remote conferencing Friday, May 15, and it won't be until noon. And sticking with the original time. Before we adjourn, I'd like to remind anyone listening, if you have any questions or concerns, you can find all information discussed today, all the slides, everything at mohave.edu. Search Board of Governors, and all the resources are listed there under agenda and items and presentations. And should you have any further questions, please contact Dr. Klippenstein, and he will go ahead and direct you to the right place, or Amy Curley. Board members, thank you all for your patience. We hope to also, like Sunny, be better every month. We're going to be good at this. And we'll continue.
You were wonderful, Julie. You were amazing. Thank you very much.
We all were.
We all were, but you, yeah, but you know, you did a good leadership job.
I appreciate your compliment, and you have a good afternoon. Everyone have a very safe week coming up, and send your notes off to Dr. K if you have any comments you want to make about that will help him formulate some ideas about where he wants to go with TNT.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mm-hmm. Happy Easter. Bye-bye.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yep. Same to everybody.
Happy Passover.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yes, that's the way to put it. I forget. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. All right. That's to all. Goodbye.